Well, there goes the day. Good morning, everybody, and welcome and happy, barely remotely spooky Halloween to you all, live on this Saturday morning, October 31st, 2020, where we are doing the 700 and spooky 70th episode of Dave's Gone By, featuring me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce. We're getting up the watch party going. We should be live. I'm showing that I'm live on Facebook. So reload your, where is I? I'm hoping I'm on the correct Facebook page. I should be on the page that is me, I'm hoping. Hard to tell. Am I still on the?
Yes, you're live.
I'm live. Hello, and welcome everybody to this episode of the show. I think there's a delay. There's like a lag of about 15 to 20 seconds, and who doesn't enjoy a good lag of at least 10 seconds? Certainly 15 is better. But yeah, we're here a couple of days before Election Day, day of Halloween. It's gonna be interesting. How many people do you think are actually gonna be trick-or-treating today? That's my darling and adorable wife, Joyce, by the way. I'm Dave.
It won't let me do a watch party. It's blank.
I don't know why it's doing that.
Yeah.
But anywho, I don't know, it's gonna be, because if I were a parent and I had a child, even though children are the least susceptible to being hurt by COVID, would I allow a child to go door to door to strangers or even neighbors, or anybody, relatives, and either ask for candy? I mean, the kids, it's the one day when we're all wearing masks anyway. So the kids are wearing masks, they're outside one door, the person is inside the other door, and yet there's a transaction going on where you kind of have to get close enough, even if you stand over here with a Snickers bar or a Hershey bar, and you just go like, here, and you toss it into their plastic open pumpkin toy things, that they go around carting, these little pumpkin buckets. So you toss it in. You're still far away, but the point is, they now, I guess, have to let the candy bar sit on a table in a pile in the garage for 72 hours before they can touch the wrapper with gloves, open it up, and get to the candy inside. I mean, I'm being overly whatever, but that is the safest way. It's like if everybody wears gloves and you take the food that you're giving to people and you're sort of hermetically, it's in a wrapper, but of course whatever is on your hands gets on the wrapper, which can be transmitted to any child or grown-up who first checks the candy before the child gets to touch it. It's, I don't know, not to mention people walking around at night.
To quote Houdini, the freaks come out at night.
Yeah, well, that's been forever. Parents accompany their children now. Yeah, parents accompany their children
Not
now.
That one. Not that one.
Which one?
Colorful one.
Yes. Okay.
Another one.
What color would you like?
Blue.
Joyce is asking for a marker, light blue.
Dark blue.
Here's a dark blue marker.
Not that one. Thank you. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Dr. David joined the show.
Oh, welcome from my high school. Welcome, David. We're just getting started here. This last 2-3 minutes has been a whole lot of nothing. I understand that. There's more to come. There's a show to do here. We're going to have Greeley Crimes Old Times, where we go into the newspaper of Greeley, Colorado. Yeah, what?
I think you're on a different page, David. I think you're on the Rabbi Sol page.
Am I?
I don't know. It says we're live with Rabbi Sol.
No, and Vince Giordano.
Okay.
I just wrote that, yeah. We go to Greeley, Colorado, because there's a newspaper there that has been publishing for many, many years. Well, the newspaper's been around for well over 100 years, but they have 2 columns in there that they've been publishing for a very long time called Coplog and also 100 Years Ago. So they're both based on true stories, based on actual facts. One of them collects phone calls that come into the local police department in Weld County and picks the weirdest, most ridiculous calls that come in. I saw someone touching a squirrel. Please send a cop. They're in the paper. It's brilliant. They load them into the newspaper, into a column once a week. And then they have another column put together by our friend Mike Peters. And he goes through the papers from 100 years ago and picks the weirdest, most ridiculous or cute or nostalgic bits, at least from our perspective, that were in the Greeley newspapers back in 1920. So they call that 100 years ago, another great column. We mix them up, we share them with you in our weekly segment, Greeley Crimes Old Times. We also go briefly inside Broadway, because I've been a theater person for so many years. I'm a theater critic and journalist and playwright, etc. So I love talking about the theater, sharing what's going on Broadway, but of course, hasn't been much to talk about except negative stuff. So we're going to allow about 5 minutes or so for negative Broadway stuff. This is basically just dead people. This is a couple of important dead Broadway, or in this case, a very important off-Broadway person passed away this week. So we'll tell you who they are, and we'll mourn for about a minute or two, and then we'll move on to the rest of the show. We will have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, where we are going to Chama. Chama,
Is that real?
Colorado. Yeah, every place that we do in our Colorado Limericks is a legitimate, actual place. It might be a municipality. It might be a town as big as 2 blocks and a post office, literally, sometimes with 10 people living on it, a ghost town. But they are real places in Colorado. And I've been doing poems about all of them, short little, well, a limerick would be a short poem about all these different places in the place that Joyce and I used to live. We lived in Greeley, but there is a place in Colorado called Chama, C-H-A-M-A, and so we will have a poem about it later in the broadcast. What else are we going to do? We're going to have, you know what? Let's open that dictionary. Let's do, I think I brought it down. It's right here. So I'm going to have my darling and adorable wife Joyce do the honors of going through this dictionary from 1966, I think it is, Webster's New World Dictionary of the That's interesting. It's not the English language. I never noticed that. It's the New World Dictionary of the American language. Maybe to distance themselves from Oxford, maybe because they wanted to have a more kind of American vernacular. Well, let's see what it is. Let's see. Use is the plural of you. That's kind of
They're asking when Vince is coming in.
Oh, I'm getting to that. Because yes, there is one more, one more item, or 2 more actually, of things that we're going to do on the show. But I'm going through them one by one, and one of them is called Dave's Big Dictionary. Here's the dictionary. My wonderful wife Joyce is going to page through it randomly, put her finger down in a spot in this book, and then tell me what the word is. And at some point later in the broadcast, I will have to talk extemporaneously for 5 or 10 minutes about whatever pops into my head about that particular word. Kind of a cool thing. I've been doing it for a few months now, actually a couple of years, and it just sort of forces me out of my comfort zone. It's a way of saying, oh no, that you can't pre-plan this. We're just going to take our finger, put it on a word, and you go. In this, not English dictionary, by the way, this American dictionary. Yeah. So, Joyce, if I can have you. She's kind of busy noting down the names of all the people who are tuning in. We're going to try and mention you all. She put her finger down. What's the word?
Bobsled.
Bobsled.
Yes, bobsled.
Bobsled.
Yeah, bobsled.
Oh, God. All right. Sometimes I get good ones. Bobsled. It's a long sled made of 2 slats, or slats, I believe. No, it's a, let's try and do this without glasses at my age. All right, here we go. A long sled made of 2 short sleds joined together. Oh, either of the short sleds of that particular sled, or a long toboggan with steering up good Lord, apparatus,
How do you spell bobsled?
like Bob
And then S-L-E-D?
and sled, yeah, with, let's see, steering apparatus and brakes, often ridden by a four-man team in races. So, or sledding is to ride on a bobsled. So I guess it's not just one little ski thing. It's those two skis joined together into a sled or kind of a bobsled race kind of item. Considering that I've never bobsled in my life, that's going to be a real interesting word to do here later on Dave's Big Dictionary, that particular segment. So that'll be worth waiting for. Oh yeah. What else are we going to do on the show? Oh yes. Most important, we have two other segments on this episode of the show, our 770th, by the way. First of all, we will have our today, yesterday trivia quiz. Now this is Halloween. It's October 31st. Well, there have been quite a few October 31st before this one. So we're going to go dip into the history of October 31st. Important things that happened historically on this date all over the world, whether it was 500 years ago or just 20 years ago. Ask some quiz questions about them to our regular guests at this point, theater critics David Sheward and Leslie Hoban Blake, also longtime friends of mine. They've been wonderful contestants and they're quite competitive, and they've been, 1 week he wins, 1 week she wins. It's kind of a tussle. We're going to see who wins, but they're not going to be alone today on the quiz. They're going to be up against a challenger. It's kind of the Jeopardy thing where we're going to have three contestants in our today, yesterday quiz. And that challenger is our special guest in the Daverhood, a musician. And when I say a musician, I mean he can play everything from the saxophone to the cornet to probably one of these, maybe drums even, certainly guitar, piano. When you talk about a multi-instrumentalist, you are talking about the guest this week in the Daverhood. And he's been doing this now for about 40 years, Vince Giordano. Now, if you're a New Yorker, you knew that you could go to like the Red Blazer 2 Club in Midtown Manhattan near the Theater District and then see Vince Giordano and the Nighthawks for week after week, month after month. You heard them on records. You heard them as the band playing old Dixieland jazz tunes in on Woody Allen movies.
Who were the critics? Hoban, Blake, and Sheward?
And David Sheward, yeah. You also heard much more recently, their music was in Boardwalk Empire. If you've heard, I just want to make sure that I'm actually recording. I think I am recording this on Zoom. I do believe I am. I am. I've checked. Great. So yeah, you heard all the music that they're doing on Boardwalk Empire, and they've worked with Scorsese on the movie The Aviator. They've been. I mean, if you think of people who are playing really old school 1910s, 20s, 30s Dixieland and other types of jazz, you were really thinking about band leader Vince Giordano, who, by the way, his most recent endeavor, since nobody's playing gigs at the moment, is backing Loudon Wainwright III, another friend of the Daverhood, on his brand new album. I think it's called I'd Rather Lead a Band, which, no, Vince Giordano would rather be the band leader. But it's a lovely album. If you get to hear it, Loudon Wainwright has done an album now of all cover versions, but they're versions of tunes from the golden age, even I guess you could say the Tin Pan Alley, but the jazz era. And it's called, Yes, I'd Rather Lead a Band. And if you get to listen to it, the backing sound is a great combo by Vince Giordano with Wainwright, whose voice is actually just right for these kinds of songs. And the album goes down a treat. You should really check it out. So we'll be talking to Vince Giordano in the Daverhood today. I won't be doing the honors, unless it will be, of course, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. So it should be a real, and they even, weirdly enough, I do believe that they have a Jewish connection too. So it should be a lot of fun with Rabbi Sol and Vince Giordano. Now, Joyce has been taking down a bunch of names of folks who are tuning in. What are some of those names, my dear? Oh, she's going to hand them to me. Here we go. Then, well, there's me, David. I hope that's another David. Bradford, James, Janet, Deborah. Oh, Pookie. Pookie is with us. Gaylord, Anne, Sydney, Bo. We have a Bo. We have an Ido.
I think it's a B. Might be a bow.
Oh, it might be a B, might be a bow. I might have a bow in my bonnet. Don't even. Bruce and Peter, sorry, Peter. James, Daniel, two different Michaels, and I've got a mic of my own right here. Marsha, and Christopher. So welcome to all of you. I'm glad you're tuning in. I hope you have a fine old time.
David, let me know if that sound is too loud. Shut the window.
Oh, yeah. Of course, we got people doing construction work and mowing outside just because.
I'm gonna switch
Just
that one.
because. It's fine. It's
No,
fine.
no, I'll switch that one. This is something.
Yeah, let's see if it makes a, yeah, it's a little quieter. Thanks so much. Joyce, you don't get to see Joyce on camera, but she's the one running around doing all the important kind of, I wouldn't be on this morning. If she didn't figure out how to change my password in Zoom, I'd still be like throwing my computer against the wall and screaming, but instead I'm screaming at you. And she also tries to do with the watch party stuff and notes down all the folks watching.
We help each other.
Well, I also help her with her stuff. So, hon,
Take the pillow.
oh, she gives me my pillow that I need, which, by the way, I mentioned this last week. This came with this. And bought this watch because I'm afraid I have two watches left. They're probably going to run down. And I bought this very, very pretty watch on the interwebs, not realizing how huge it is,
Even
which
what
you
it
can't even
shows-
see on the
What it
interwebs.
shows is like, even for me, like I like outfits and I buy them online and I get them and I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have bought that in a store.
Oh, I know. But
Yeah.
just, I don't know how to show the scale of this because it looks perfectly
Then
nice and
also,
normal.
that's something like your cup.
Yeah, look, it runs half the length of, or I'd say a third of the length of Pooey's body from the tip of the watch, from the watch's nipple, essentially, all the way down to Pooey's smile. But of course, it's hard to get scale with Pooey. I can't even, if you only knew that it's really closer to Flavor Dave than anything else. But I like it. I do like the look of it, and it looks great on camera.
That's what your guest wrote last time.
You know, what Flavor? No, well, he quoted me.
Oh.
I made the Flavor Dave joke, and he quoted me. But the lovely thing is that the watch was wrapped around this pillow, which, I mean, this pillow is worth the $8 I paid for the watch. I just love it. I mean, if you need a travel pillow for obviously a little person, this is what you might want to bring with you. So, hon, how was your week?
Good, you know, considering.
Considering everything, right? Considering all that's been going on, considering that somehow, I don't know what happened to the second wave of coronavirus. We kind of got through the second wave real easy, didn't we? The first wave was horrible.
I know.
First wave was like, oh, everything shuts down, everybody wear a mask, people are dying, there's tent hospitals in Central Park. That was first wave. Thousands of people, 100,000 dead, 20,000 New Yorkers, in a couple of weeks, boom. And then down. And then now everybody's saying that we're in the third wave.
Yes, I know.
Where the hell did the second wave go? What kind of wave was it?
It's like feminism. A couple of waves that collapsed onto each other.
Yeah, I mean, first wave is like if you're seeing relatives go on a ship, right? And the first wave is like bye, and that third wave is like bye. But second wave, you're watching them go on the ship. You're kind of happy to see them go. You don't really care. You're on your cell phone. It's like when where like 10 people die in the second, it just kind of skated by us.
I don't know what
How was it a wave?
Maybe the first wave was in New York and the second wave was when it rolled out countrywide, and then it's.
Oh, that's
I
interesting.
think we were first wave and then we didn't realize it. Yeah.
And first wave was, of course, China, and then some of the other
I don't know.
countries that got it.
It's ambiguous.
Yeah, but we are now, at least in terms of people getting it, into the third wave, apparently. New York isn't cresting yet. Other parts of the country certainly are. People, thank goodness, aren't dropping dead the way they were in the first wave. They're just getting it. They're just getting tested for it. Hospitalizations are going up. That's the scary part.
Yeah.
You know, I feel okay. Every time my throat is sore, like I wake up on Sunday morning and I'm like, uh-oh, it's raspy. I feel a little, it hurts when I swallow a little bit. And I forget that I do this for 3.5, 4 hours on Saturday, you know, just declaiming at the screen. And it just goes out of my mind. It's like, oh my God, I'm sick. I'm dying. I have COVID. It's like, no, I just blew out my throat the day before doing a podcast. So, but you're feeling okay.
Yeah, I'm just tired. You know, I think that we got a thing from Banner Health, which is our in Colorado, one of our local healthcare systems, and they talked about like now having pandemic fatigue and burnout because we've been in it for so long. Yeah. It's like a low grade level of like that. I think everybody's feeling that. People are getting kooky.
Well, that was the problem.
Like it's grating on, you know.
You're absolutely right, but that was the problem weeks ago, which forced people out of their houses, taking more dangerous-ish tactics.
I would just call that poor judgment.
No, but look at the Orthodox, if we must, look at the Orthodox Jews, and they're like, we must assemble. We have to have this wedding. We have to, why? Because they've been cooped up. And they feel that, you know, the ratio between what you're giving up versus what you're gaining is out of whack. And they feel, okay, if we have a wedding for 10,000 people in the street.
Somebody named Dave liked your video.
Well, thank you, Dave. If we have this giant wedding, okay, the chances are that out of those 10,000 people, 10 are going to die. Now, if 100 are going to die, but 10, they're old rabbis. Some of them have the flu anyway. 2 of them have Tay-Sachs. They're going to die. Fine, okay. And then 100 people can get really sick, a few of them hospitalized, and the rest of us are going to have a fantastic party. And they're saying, why aren't you letting us do this? Why don't you let us have a riot? Why don't you let us, and more to the point, I think they feel they're being unjustly targeted in terms of keeping stores open and restaurants.
I also think, David, that during the pandemic, people are getting a little bit hyper vigilant. So they're like, ooh, you know, but anything like you could say your online coupon wouldn't work, and then you just throw a fit. Anything can, you know,
Oh, I've been like that since I was born. Didn't take a pandemic to do that. You saw that with me this morning. It was like, I'm trying to get on Zoom. It was like, my password. What do you mean I just picked like fucking password? God damn it, you know. I think I get on here and I'm all smiles. Yeah, but I get that. I get it, and it hits everybody on different days, man. Because you're feeling okay, and then you come across someone who's in that downward thing, and like, what's up with you? What do you mean, what's up with me?
I know. It's like that. It's like the boiling point. People are so driven to the point. It's like what is it? Tinder. The Tinder keg or the straw.
I go on Tinder.
Back. It's just
it's the one little thing. It's that one little extra thing after day of water torture, of Corona beer torture, I guess you could say. Just living with it, getting used to it, and then there's just that one day was, oh, come on, you know. I've had a long week. Anybody who's been working and saying I'm doing this and just doing the errands and having to buy groceries online, and then they just want to, on a Friday night, maybe they just want to go out, have a beer with friends, and
or you know what
can't.
I think? A lot of people just want to forget that we're living under it's like living in a war zone. You just want to have a little bit of freedom and not feel like you're oppressed.
No, granted,
you just want to have like
war zone should only be like this.
But you want to have normalcy, like, you know, normalcy. You want to just be like, oh, like, hey, let's get in the car and go, you know, go out to eat, or let's go to a museum, or let's go see a film, or let's just, you know, let's go visit our friends. I think you just want that. You know, people will be more risky because they just want that feeling. It's oppressive.
Yeah. Oh, 110% agree. I mean, it's really true. And this idea of the NIH and the CDC and Fauci saying, oh, normalcy is coming in like 2022.
Yeah.
So it's not as if, you know, when you get a horrible head cold or a flu or something like that, and you know, oh God, this is going to be a horrible week. But by next week, I'm going to start feeling better. And then 2 weeks from now, back to complete normal life, and I'm not even thinking about it, and I can go do what I want. Because you know there's an end zone. It could be like, oh, you go into the dentist chair, right? You got it down, and the dentist says, oh, yeah, got to fill that. like, and yes, you have to know, but yes, no, but can. So already in your head, you're just calculating. You know that you will get through it because within 45 minutes to an hour, it will be drilled, it will be done,
Well,
and you're walking out.
So like,
Yeah.
we want to text message quickly. We want, everybody wants quick feedback, and the idea that you have to, like, think of Depression era. So my people, Depression era people, they endured like food lines. They endured, what do you call that in the supermarket when you can't get food? Like, famine or like scarcity. So like, they've endured that, and people have endured a lot of hardship. So they're a little bit more resilient if they're alive. But us, we're like, what do you mean they don't have that? My slippers I want in turquoise and blue. I can't believe it. I want my Amazon order delivered now. Like, why do I have to wait till tomorrow? It's like,
yeah, there's a song from like 1930, 1931 that Dr. Demento played a couple of times on his show, where it was, an old 78, speaking of Vince Giordano, and it's like called Prosperity is Just Around the Corner. Yeah. But it was a satirical thing of like, prosperity, they have this guy in the bullhorn, prosperity is just around the corner. And then there's this nebbish going, and I'd like to know which corner. And he's always answering back at this guy. I'm saying, oh yeah, everything's wonderful. The president is saying this, and then there's the guy going, all right, so, but right now, what? And if it's around the corner, how far away is the corner?
There's the negativity of people who are just negative and depressive, and then there's the combined with the generations of people who want quick response. So you've got people who fall into depression, and then you've also got
people who fall into the gap, and they get cheap clothing that way. But
you need to mind the gap.
Yeah, it's funny. We walked last week. We went for a walk, and we went to the local train station. And I knew it all along, but it occurred to me at that moment, I have not been on a Long Island Railroad train since March.
Since 8 months, you said 8 months, right?
Oh my goodness. Our guest said that he would, just to be on the safe side, he would log in early. Yeah. He's logged in a half hour early.
Tell Vince that a lot of people are looking forward to his visit, and they're chatting about him.
Yes. Well, do you have any messages for any people saying how
it's too much?
They're excited? Wow.
Just tell him that a lot of the people liked. We did a story, which is like a snippet, like a snapshot on Facebook with him in the tux, and people really liked it. So.
Whoa.
Just tell him that they think he's very nice and they want to see his stuff.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. I would put him on now. But then we also going to have him for our Today Yesterday quiz. So I don't know if Rabbi Sol has like an hour and 15 minutes worth of questions.
15 minutes early, because don't make them.
Yeah, if Vince, if you can hang, because I also want to talk. I really do.
Why don't you chat to him in the waiting room and just let him know? Do you know how to do that?
How can I can see the waiting room without admitting, right?
Yeah, so just go like chat participants. Can you chat to him?
I can try.
Let me see. Because you want to let him know.
I'm going to try and do it here.
Wait, let me show you. Hold on. No.
Yeah, I think, he's there. He's in the waiting room.
Yeah.
And
right here, where it says message.
Ah, there we go.
And then just send him a message in the waiting room. Say, Vince, you did good. You're in. We'll let you in about 15 minutes and you hang.
And 15, 20 men. Great. There we go.
I'm gonna let people know.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. Anyway, but I want to take 15, 20 minutes because, you know what? I don't always get, in fact, considering the times we're in, I don't get that political at all on this show. But we're about 3 days from the elections, right? I hope you got to vote. I voted already. My wonderful wife voted. Now, Joyce, do you want to stay stum on this, or do you don't want to? Do you want to say whom you voted for, or not even? Nobody's business. Okay. She doesn't want to get too political, but I've been bouncing back and forth for months, and if you watch this show, you know that unlike so many of the people who watch this program and people, my friends and my colleagues for years, who tend to be, if this is centrist, they tend to go about this far left, right? And there's a couple of people, just a couple, that I know who tend to go right-ish. I really don't know any people that much on the hard right. And I'm generally centrist left. But it was not an automatic, oh God, Donald Trump is the worst president ever in the history of the known world. Because he's not. It's not even close to it. I really don't care. I mean, I do care what friends say. And if you read so many of the newspapers and you watch CNN or MSNBC, and it's just like everything Trump does is so unbelievably terrible and things have never been worse. And even now, in the midst of this horrid pandemic, when they're blaming him for 230,000 American deaths, when he is, perhaps because of early negligence and looking the wrong, or thinking the wrong way and taking the wrong advice about this thing, he is probably responsible for tens of thousands, maybe let's pin 50,000 of those 200 and nearly 50,000 deaths on him, but not all of them. And credit where credit is due. Some of those deaths are on Governor Cuomo's doorstep because he sent all the old people back into the nursing homes. So it was not a slam dunk for me to just go, oh, well, of course, Kamala Harris, Biden, Kamala Harris, because, there are really good things that this president has done. And I will absolutely put them out there. I've never been shy about saying them, about saying how extraordinary his policy has been in terms of the Middle East and Israel. Oh, everybody was saying, oh, he's going to create wars. He's doing such terrible things by bolstering Israel this way. All the Arabs are just going to get so upset. The Palestinians will do it. And instead, what he did was befriend Israel in a way that almost no president has done. Work with them, support them, put the consulate, the embassy in Jerusalem, where, by the way, 5 other presidents said they would and didn't. He just ended up doing it. And then, from a position of strength, said to the Arab neighbors, okay, now, do you want to make peace or not? Do you want to have commerce and cultural exchanges or not? And what has happened over the past few months is, Israel is sitting down and signing treaties with Bahrain and United Arab Emirates, and most recently Sudan. It gets no play in the major press, but that's an extraordinary thing. When was the last peace treaty? With Egypt 1 million years ago under Jimmy Carter? It's like, so he did, and maybe he personally didn't do it. He just showed up for the for the signing of the document, but his team did that. Peace in the Middle East between Israel and a couple of its neighbors. A little credit for that, a little credit for unemployment up until March being at 3.5%, right? A little credit for the stock market. Yes, the turnaround from George W. Bush's horrible depression. You want to talk about a truly terrible president, George W. Bush was it. The turnaround started under Obama, no question about that. But when President Trump said, we're going to put the economy on rocket fuel, he promised it, everybody laughed, he did it. Now, he may not have done it for the poor, may have done it for the lower and even the middle class, but at least the middle class was doing pretty well in their 401ks and their TIA-CREFs, and people were able to get jobs. I had trouble getting jobs for many years. Past couple of years, I've been rather gainfully employed without much difficulty, right? I can say that happened under this particular president in a way that it did not happen even under Obama, who I certainly liked quite a lot, right? And it didn't happen very much under George W. Bush.
You really weren't looking for jobs then?
Yes, I was.
Not really.
Okay, fine. So, yeah, the good things. And that we were able to holler at Donald Trump for the first 3 years of his administration because the big things were better, right? There weren't terrorist, horrible acts coming at us the way there were under George W. Bush, right? There weren't bread lines and starvation in the street. It wasn't a Great Depression. The economy picked up. People were getting jobs, even if they weren't great jobs, even if the jobs weren't paying what they were paying 25 years earlier. At least people were able to go out and get jobs. And of course, the rich people were getting richer, and the stock market was flying, and unemployment was down. So you could holler about him, about immigrants and this and that, because some of the basic needs were being met in a way that they weren't always under some other presidents. Okay. And with all that, and with how much sometimes I just despise the hypocrisy of the left wing, not that there's an hypocrisy on the right, but my pen's hovering over the ballot: Trump, Biden, Pence, Harris. And the decision maker for me was that a person is judged, is an old line, and I don't necessarily believe it, and yet in this case I kind of do, that a man is judged by the company he keeps. And I think in terms of the company that Donald Trump keeps, his vice president, who, if Trump has another COVID episode, or is an old guy, they're both old guys. If he goes, then Mike Pence becomes president. And that scares the shit out of me. Pence, I like Donald Trump overall. I like him as much as a blowhard and a bully. There's something I like about him. Charismatic and magnetic and leader-like. Pence is just, the perfect man for Halloween. He is Michael Myers. He doesn't need the mask. Pence is just like the unflappable, like, abortion's wrong, family, religion, no. Scares me. I do not want that man sitting at the top of the pyramid in the White House. And then you start going through the other people around Trump who are supporting Trump, and you get to the folks, Lindsey Graham, right, who sometimes breaks with Trump, but and first there was John Boehner, and then the true Satan of our times, Mitch McConnell, right? Mitch McConnell on the Republican side. And if anyone pulled my hand more towards voting for Biden-Harris, which I did, it was him and what he represented. And when I talk about hypocrisy, the staggering hypocrisy of the Republicans in terms of Amy Coney Barrett, of our new and quickly installed Supreme Court justice, and that knowledge that if Trump gets another 4 years, he will very possibly have the chance to pick 2 more Supreme Court justices, at least one. Now, he might end up filling a right-winger who is retiring. Just in what so many people are now saying that Ruth Bader Ginsburg should have done in Obama's last term. She knew she was old. She knew she was dealing with cancer. She knew she had comorbid conditions. So it might have been nice of her, in retrospect, to tell Obama, you know what, I got a little bit of a fever. I think it's good that I step away. Why don't you pick a 30-year-old judge who will be there, God willing, for the next 60 years? No. She stayed on, did some good things, but then, week after week, she's back just trying to stay alive throughout 4 years of Trump's term, and she didn't make it. And that put us now in a position where it's a conservative court, 6-3. If Trump stays in, it could get to like 7-2, or stay 5-4 or 6-3 throughout the rest of my lifetime. I'm 56 years old. I may never see there's no such thing as an even court when there's 9 people on it, but I may never see 5-4 again or 4-5. Right? Because of what happened over the last couple of years. And because of a miserable, evil creature like Mitch McConnell, who will say to President Obama with 9 months left in his term, no, you cannot pick Merrick Garland for the Supreme Court because it's too close to the end of your term. We're going to have a new president. The people should decide. And yet, with what? When there were 3 months, 2 months left in at least this term of President Trump, McConnell saying, we're going to install Amy Coney Barrett. Nothing made me happier this week than seeing Mitch McConnell with his hand all bruised and his face all fucked up. You know, the inside of him is actually showing up on the outside of him, finally. There's no painting in his closet that's deteriorating. We're watching him physically deteriorate. It's a wonderful thing, right? And mainly because of that hypocrisy, mainly because he kept Merrick Garland. As a matter of fact, and I probably said this a couple of years ago, that I would have been all in on Donald Trump if he had done one thing. If he had been a Minch, and since he had been a Democrat for years before he went seriously into these politics that he's in now, if he'd come into office, and the first time before Kavanaugh, if he could have said, you know what, Merrick Garland got a raw deal. He was a very, not very far left wing. He's kind of a centrist guy, very competent, capable judge, absolutely worthy of being on the Supreme Court. It's a shame what they did to Obama. Let me bridge the gap between Republicans and Democrats. Let me make a handshake here. And my appointment will be Merrick Garland. And then Republicans would have grumbled and something, and at least he would have earned my respect for doing something like he didn't. But if he had just done that, which would have been a wonderful gesture across the aisle, I think we would have had a very different 4 years. And of course, yes, there are other things that Trump specifically did that disgusted me or made me mad. The whole thing about not letting transgender people in the military. What is that? What kind of homophobia, weirdness, and ugliness is that? To not, because people want to be a different gender from what they're born, suddenly they can't volunteer to go to some shithole country and die. Like, where's the thinking on that? They're just going to go in the military to get their operations. It's like, why is 90% of the American workforce working? It's for health benefits. We can't afford them otherwise. A lot of us can afford food, okay, and we got our shelter, but it costs, if you're on Cobra or some other plan and you want health insurance, it costs you $900 a month to live. You got to work in order to get sick. Work makes you sick, but at least you can pay for the sickness. So if transgender people want to go into the military because one of the benefits is getting a certain surgery that they need, even if that's true, which is really not, okay. Because there's things that you're doing in the military that you're giving up of your own personhood, where it's a deal. You're making that deal, right? And then, of course, the whole immigration thing. I am not against making sure that we know who's coming into this country and for what purpose and how, and keeping tracks on them, right? I am absolutely for revising and changing the immigration laws and making them reasonable and intelligent and fair, so that good people who want to come into this country, whether they want to be bakers or Uber drivers or dishwashers or scientists or musicians, God bless, let them in. We need that cultural exchange. We need the huddled masses and so forth, right? But at the same time, what we don't need is just people sneaking in and across and around, and knowing whether, they're just coming because they can't feed their family in another country, or they're just coming because they're smuggling 20 pounds of heroin back and forth across the board. It'd be nice to kind of know that and control that. And Trump's messaging about building a giant wall was terrible. But the idea of a reasonable border and barrier appealed to everyone, by the way, left and right, just up until Trump started talking about it in terms of a wall. So I think his whole messaging about immigration has been awful. And that whole thing of separating immigrant families was he just did a lot of really dumb and not nice stuff about that. And again, I'm also mixed on his mixed messages in terms of race. I do think there's something to be said when he tells Black and Hispanic and Latinx and underclass families, if you will, that, the Democrats throw words at you and they say all the right things, and they put on dashikis when they go into Congress to stand with you. But here's what I do. I may say the wrong things, but if I got job opportunities opening up, where instead of going and getting into gangs or getting into drug culture or just getting into despair and not having anything, making enough money where you feel like a person because you have a job and you make just enough where you can go up in society a bit. Isn't that better? If I may talk the wrong game, isn't it better to have a society where you can actually be helped? You may hate the police, but if police are keeping order, then you're not being shot in a drive-by every other week. It's a very, the messaging very often, as I've said, has been terrible. But some of the actions that of everything Trump does is terrible. Everything Trump does is the worst guy ever. Right? No, just no. And let me tell you, it was not easy for me to just put my ink to the ballot and go Biden, Harris. Because Biden, 10 years ago, sure. Biden now? I don't know. I don't believe all the necessarily the Alzheimer's stuff. I think a lot of that is just someone who grew up stuttering and learned how not to stutter and has to sort of take a moment before he speaks if he's getting excited or else that will happen, right? But at the same time, he's not a young man. He is, I think, fair enough to say a bit past his prime. And he is that sort of fakey politician of sort of, in those debates, it just curdled my cheese, if you will, when he started going into that camera in that fake way. I'm appealing to you, the American family, with that smile. It's like, oh man, and I know he's been coached to do that by his handlers. Everybody is, but there was just something like, he would not have been even my top 3 choices of Democratic candidates. And I barely liked any of them, but that's what they wound up with. That's what American politics is. And Harris, not a bad choice for running mate. I think she's got the policing background or the court and the anti-criminal background, as well as being Democrat. Pretty decent choice for Veep, and she may wind up being president, which was definitely on my back of my mind stuff. Am I worried if the Democrats get in of what will happen in terms of, first of all, in terms of the economy? I think there would be a fairly quick recession because Wall Street will respond to, we don't know this guy, we don't know these people, the Democrats are coming in, we've had really good times for the past 4 years, uncertainty, what now? And are they going to take all our money and give it to the poor because they're socialists? That's how Wall Street will react. Stupidly, of course, because it's Wall Street, but that's what they will do. So expect a bump downward. And in terms of, in terms of other social stuff, I'm worried about how they will then approach the Middle East and approach Israel. It certainly will not be in the level that Trump has been doing. But in terms of electing judges and in terms of policy involving women and gays and abortion rights, Biden-Harris, and unquestionably for that. And so that's when I had my pen hovering over the dots, ladies and gentlemen, and it came to certainly the judges, right? And some of the smaller people, Democrat, 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 Democrat. Not because of Trump, but because of Pence and McConnell and Graham and a lot of the yahoos on Fox News. They just pushed my pencil in the other direction. Well, we're going to push this episode of Dave's Gone By in a completely different direction, ladies and gentlemen, because we have a guest. We have a guest in the Daverhood on this Halloween spooky edition of Dave's Gone By. He's been a band leader for about 40 years now. You're going to know him from the Nighthawks, and specializes in music of the teens, 20s, 30s. Well, I say teens, and I realize we've just lived through the teens already. And I'm talking like the teens a century ago. And the 20s and the 30s, the Louis Armstrong stuff, and the Bix Beiderbecke stuff. This is a guy who specializes in it and plays it and makes it sound fresh and great without changing. He's not out there putting beatbox rhythms to it. He's doing it the old way, but with gusto and spirit. So I would love right now to be talking to Vince Giordano of Vince Giordano and the Nighthawks, but I don't have that opportunity, unfortunately. Rabbi Sol Solomon, who is a music lover, begged me. He said, oh, I love this kind of music. It's in all these Woody Allen movies. Please, please, please let me talk to Vince Giordano. And he wore me down, as he always does. So instead of me, ladies and gentlemen, talking to Vince Giordano of the Nighthawks, we're going to have Rabbi Sol Solomon in just a moment. And until then, let's hear some music that I hope is in the public domain, courtesy of Fletcher Henderson.
Hello.
All right, Rosa Henderson, be quiet. That was Rosa Henderson with the it's Rosa Henderson with Fletcher Henderson. I hope they're not brother and sister, because that just sounds a little incestuous. But ladies and gentlemen, I am here on this Shabbos Halloween morning. I call it Shabbaween, which is, Shabba Ranks' youngest kid, talking to a musician. Talking to someone who loves this kind of, look, he even has a poster of Paul Whiteman right behind him, which is, by the way, not to say anything bad about the black man, but he happens to have a Paul Whiteman poster behind him. You look fantastic. Ladies and gentlemen, this man has been a band leader and multi-instrumentalist now for decades. You've heard his music behind Boardwalk Empire. You have also heard it being played in a bunch of Woody Allen movies, The Aviator, the Scorsese film. He's even been the subject of a documentary. I wish somebody would make a documentary about me, but no, they made one about him. It's called There's a Future in the Past, just a couple of years ago. And he's keeping busy even in the midst of a pandemic, because Loudon Wainwright III, well, he's not the third anymore because all those other Wainwrights died. He's just Loudon Wainwright, and he put out an album very recently called I'd Rather Lead a Band, which features him doing jazzy 1920s, 30s songs backed up by this man, Vince Giordano, the Nighthawk himself. Shalom, a jazzy shalom to you. Welcome.
Was machst du?
Was machst du? I'm, COVID, all the usual.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, Rabbi.
Can you maybe turn your volume? It's very sort of. You of all people should have a good microphone. I don't know, but can you maybe adjust your gain a little, because it's very fuzzy. I hear you.
Want me to get closer? If I get closer, is that helpful?
Yeah. All right. Let's see.
Okay. Let me get closer into you.
That's all right. That's okay.
Okay.
You sound like Jack White when he sings now. So here we go. So
Yeah.
How are you feeling? How are you doing?
I'm okay. I used to say Machaleben, but there's nothing really happening. We have to wait. We had a nice gig at the Iguana. It was going to be 7 years this September, but we're sort of on hold. But I'm keeping busy. I've been working on another motion picture, Warner Brothers, something called Don't Worry, Darling. Don't Worry, Darling. I don't remember the cast. You guys can Google it and see who's in there. We supplied some 1940s and 50s music.
See, the problem for me is it's obviously not a Jewish film, because if it were, it'd be called Worry, Darling. Only Goyim could come like, don't worry. Goes from where everybody's worried. Let me ask you how this works, especially in a pandemic. Warner Brothers calls you up and says, "Oh, we need jazzy 30s, 40s music for this for this movie." It's like a musical. Are you working from home? Do you go into a studio with your musicians? Do they send you clips? What do you do? How does it work?
Well, I really worked through a fellow named Randall Poster and Stuart Lerman. They are my guiding lights. They got me through Boardwalk Empire and The Aviator, and they have contact with Warner Brothers. So they work with a whole team there, and they have a team, and they all, toss tunes back and forth, and finally someone decides, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And so we did go in the studio, but we had to go in smaller numbers. We just used the rhythm section, the piano, bass, drums, guitar. We laid down the rhythm tracks. And then the next day, the horns came in. But since the horns are blowing air, it's so, dangerous, we were in different rooms with cameras and headphones. So it's kind of challenging.
Wow, I didn't even think of the horns with all the schmutz and they're coming through the blowhole.
That's it.
Couldn't they just put plastic over, or would that mute the sound, like the little saran wrap over the front of the horn?
Well, you got a saxophone, and the sound is coming throughout the whole, there's pads throughout the whole thing. So we just keep everybody separate in booths, and it worked out okay. I think they were happy. They didn't call back and complain.
But is it a little different from film scoring, like the Newman family? What they do, they get sent a scene, and Randy Newman's got to sit there and say, "Do a little longer," and then it's not, you just do a song, and they tell we need an up tempo number, we need a down tempo number. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, we leave the scoring to the real big names out there in Hollywood and Los Angeles. We just do our little bits. We do nightclub scenes and things like that, and they'll use a song for an effective thing, but not as important as the massive strings, the Max Steiner. That's not me. I wish it was. I'm reading his biography, by the way. There's a wonderful new biography on Max Steiner, the godfather of Hollywood music. So check that out on Google. Stephen Smith wrote it, and you'll kvell. I'm telling you, it's fantastic.
All right. You have used at least 3 Yiddishisms since we begun just a couple of moments ago. Your name is Vince Giordano, which doesn't sound very Hebraic to me. However, I do believe that if, this were Nazi Germany and Hitler was still here, there's enough Jew in you that you'd be dead. Is this true?
Well, there actually is. There's a little bit of the mishpucha in me here. My grandfather was Ben from Lithuania, but unfortunately he was a shikha, and he kind of disappeared about 1931, 32. So I'm reliving him, and he married a
shikha.
Shikha, yeah. It happens. It happens.
It shouldn't, but it does. Yeah. But there's one. What is it? 1/8 of you.
That's right. I can only light one candle in December.
And since you have that Jewish thing, suddenly you're not good with machines or objects. So you can't even light the candle. You have to ask somebody, a Shabbos guy, to do it for you. It's very
exactly.
You're willing to. You could. So how has Jewishness, that little bit of you, because is it because you're just a New Yorker and this is why you picked up so much? Or where did because you throw off the words like this?
Well, I first of all, I live in Midwood, Brooklyn, and we have a lot of the tribe there, and dealing with my neighbors and learning a little expressions. And I've been friends with geniuses like Dick Hyman, gave me a great start in the Woody Allen movies. And everybody in New York's a little bit of Jewish in them. You just can't help it. We pick it up. Everybody's schlepping, everybody's kvetching, and you pick up all this lingo. And a lot of great musicians that I've worked with, Andy Farber and Sol Yeaget, the other Sol in my life, Sol Yeaget, the wonderful clarinet player.
Oh, yes, yes.
He was the reincarnation of Benny Goodman. And so I got to hang with these people, and you hear everybody talk and joke. And
so what about you is Italian? If that little part of you, which is expanding to go the way Jews do when they move into a neighborhood, but 7/8 of you is Italian. What's Italianate about you?
Well, I'm really not that Italian, I mean, I hardly know any Italian words, really. It really wasn't spoken in my home. We just spoke English, and we did the regular holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, and so there wasn't really the tradition, as it could have or should have been.
Now, speaking of engaging in traditions and doing things, so thank God you're healthy during this insane time. How is your life? I mean, you haven't been able to do concerts or do clubs, or obviously you can still go into studios in a masked way. But what's happening with you in performance? Do you miss it terribly?
I really do. I really do miss it. I mean, I have some of my instruments here. Here's a big bass saxophone that I just have, and I have my tuba and my bass and my banjo. So I have these little play along CDs. You push the button and there's a rhythm section playing different songs. So you jam in your living room because you don't have the regular guys and gals around you to play with. So you do what you have to do. I'm keeping busy though. The main thing I think is you got to keep busy. If you say, woe is me, you're sunk. So I'm taking a lot of the old written scores and putting them in the computer by hand. We have these programs. This is called Sibelius, and you can hear these charts. I made friends with the great grandnephew of a famous American composer called Milton Ager, and Milton Ager wrote "Happy Days Are Here Again" and "Happy Feet" and many great songs. And he had these old manuscripts of Milton's, and he says, "I'd love to hear what these sound like." So I did a little favor for him, and I put it in the Sibelius, and now we can hear some of these arrangements. So it's not as great as hearing it with the whole band, but it's close enough. It's better than looking at the paper and saying, "I wonder what this sounds like. I wonder what notes he chose."
Now one thing I do want to ask about in terms of, since now nobody can travel anywhere, nobody can go anywhere, am I wrong in thinking that for most of what you've been doing, you don't leave the country much? It's not like you've gone on world tours with your bands.
Yeah, I used to go as a single musician, schlepping my instruments and all that stuff, and it was the idea sounds good, but the airlines are not my friend. You open your case and this is bashed in, or this is stolen, or things are broken. You pick up the string bass in 2 or 3 pieces, and it's a lot of service. So you just say, enough. I did that for a while. People have asked me to travel with the band, and I'd rather just stay here. People come to see us. It's much easier, and there's less heartbreak.
And thank God up until March, you were able to make a perfectly good living being in Brooklyn and New York and America, bring the band, go to a great nightclub and do your thing. Can I ask you some great or terrible nightclub memories of just being up, because you must have seen, you've got this club, there's 500 people in it, let's say, they're dancing, they're drinking too much. Have you seen fights and deaths and shootings and bar mitzvahs? What?
Well, there are some moments in my life that I couldn't forget about. I mean, we were playing a wedding, and in the cocktail before, a guest passed away. Just boom. And such is life, I guess. But it was very, how do you start again? How do you be respectful? And
Well, you don't play Happy Days Are Here Again, that's for sure. You might
this is
change your
true.
set list just a little. You know, a little more
So,
Stephen Foster, a little less Irving Berlin.
so we kind of just broke it down to one instrument to just try to, get back to the party somehow. So that was hard. And then we had a couple of crazy things in nightclubs where you get these drunks that really start thinking they're going to pick a fight with me, and I'd laugh, and you just have to go along with it because you know that this person is kind of not all together at this point. And I'll finally say, yes, I remember my first beer too, and just try to brush
I
it.
remember my 18th beer in a night. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of memories, I want to ask, because I don't know how close, since you're not doing film scoring per se, since you're hired to just play music, when someone like a Woody Allen, or through Dick Hyman, who, by the way, has been on this program. It was just
Great.
here. We had him as a
He's
guest.
the best. He's the best.
And for someone whose parents named him Dick Hyman, turned out really, really well, because that would have just, I'd be in a padded room. Somebody gave me that name. It was like really seriously penis vulva. Yeah, come. Thank you so much. But when you get a Woody Allen film assignment, do you even interact with him? Does he give you notes? Do you see him? Does he shake your hand? Or are you not even there, really?
Well, I've done a bunch, again, with Dick, and a few on my own, like the last one we did was Cafe Society. And he likes to work through other people. So he'll have a music coordinator, and she will designate the tunes. And we did 2 sessions, and there was no one there from the production. And I feel a little weird because I like direction. I really like, the golden rule is the man with the gold makes the rules.
Somebody Jewish made that up. Absolutely. The man with the gelt runs the belt. So, but did you ever get to play like when he was doing nightclubs for a week after all those Mondays at, I forget the name of the place.
Michael's Pub.
Michael's Pub. And then
I subbed there a few times. I playing either string bass or banjo. And then when he moved over to the Carlisle, I did some sub work there. But my nights were also Mondays, and so I couldn't be in 2 places. But it was great. He keeps the old tradition going, and it's something when you see Woody Allen in an old YouTube clip. He's doing the happy comedy and stuff. He's a completely different person by himself.
I think we know that.
Yeah, very soft spoken, and like it's a different guy. So he's very down to earth.
Now, speaking of completely different guys, when you were doing the music for The Aviator, did you have much contact with Martin Scorsese, who was probably talking even faster than I do, or you didn't get to see him really? Well,
very, very briefly. Great work, Vince, great work, and whew, he'd run off just like that. So I really never got a chance to hang with him much, because I know he's into the history of film, which I am too. I collect a lot of old films, and and I'm here in Brooklyn in Midwood. I can throw a baseball on a good day and hit the building that used to be the Warner Brothers East Coast lot where they made the Vitaphone shorts, and before that it was the Vitagraph shorts. And Mo Howard, of the Three Stooges,
yes.
Horowitz is his real name, talks about going to the studio here in Avenue M and East 14th Street. And he shows up and he says, I want to be a messenger. Messenger, okay. So he's running out, getting people coffee and, things. And he wouldn't take any tips. And they said, what's with this kid? This is Mo. And finally, they need a kid for the film. They said, hey, kid, you want to be in a film? And that's how he got his start in motion pictures right here in Midwood, Brooklyn.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow! Did you read that story? How did you hear that
story? In Mo's autobiography.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of all these great people that came before me, you know, and I have big shoes to fill, Sal, big shoes, and sometimes I can't. Hey, while we're at it, just mention here,
Oh, of
this
course.
is the,
If you could tilt it so I don't go blind, if you could just sort of hold it so that the lighting on it, and hold it up a little more.
let
I
me
see
tell
your
you,
name, Vince Giordano. Angle it, little there,
all right,
perfect. Hold it there.
there you go.
Tell us about this DVD. It looks like a DVD, is it, or what is it?
It's a DVD. That's the documentary, and you'll laugh and you'll cry, you'll drink, you'll turn it off, everything.
The name of it is again. Well, I forget the name. I have the name. There's a future in the past.
The future in the past, and you can get it off my website. Just go Vince Giordano, and here's the picture of the Loudon Wainwright. We got some Irving Berlin, some Fats Waller, some Harry Barris, all kinds of Harold Arlen, my favorite.
The name of that album, by the way, is "I'd Rather Lead a Band." It's the
I'd rather lead a band. Yeah.
Loudon Wainwright. And by the way, he's still using the 3. What happened?
Yes.
First was Loudon Wainwright, everybody dies. Now he's 3 again. I don't
Yeah.
get it.
Well, you know, if you got it, use it. You know, I mean.
So when you were making, was the recording for the album pre-pandemic, or did you do it?
Yes, and in fact, we had all kinds of work lined up. We were supposed to go in the Carlisle with him. We had these little mini tours, a trip up to Boston, trip to Philadelphia, and they all.
But how is it working with him making the album? What's Loudon Wainwright like?
Oh, great! Right, he's upbeat and fun, and you know, he remembers a lot of this music for his parents used to listen to it on the phonograph. So he always had that in the back of him. Of course, he did more contemporary stuff, and he writes a lot of stuff too. But this was an idea that Randall Poster and him got together, and I said, how about doing one of these throwbacks to the 20s and 30s? And we worked together in not only in Boardwalk, but also in The Aviator. He sings Happy Feet and a few other songs there too, I forget. So some of these guys like Elvis Costello that we worked with for Boardwalk, his father was like a vaudevillian.
Right, yeah.
It was kind of in his blood. And Liza Minnelli that we worked with too, from Judy Garland, you know. So we had her on doing a Sophie Tucker song. You gotta see your mama every night, you know, and that
That's
kind
actually better than Liza. You do Liza better than Liza. That's quite amazing.
of.
I kid. So you've worked with some pretty famous people, and not just on famous people's work where you never actually met them, but you have led the band with it. What are some anecdotes of people that we'd be like, oh, you worked with so-and-so, and they were either complete assholes or they were most lovely people or something funny happened? Tell us.
Yeah. Well, you know, man, I did a lot of work with Leon Redbone, the wonderful singer, and I got to work with him on Saturday Night Live. We did that.
So wait, what was he, because he has a certain a certain persona. When the camera was off, was he just like completely normal?
No. No, he never changed, and it was hard to understand what he was talking about a lot of time because he talked down like this, and we never knew what he was going to be playing. He'd start some little vamp on his guitar, and we'd all have to keep our fingers crossed. And he was a man of mystery, but he loved the old stuff, and we used to tour a lot, and we'd go into antique shops and pick up old stuff, sheet music and records, and I miss him. There's going to be a documentary coming up about him. So maybe you're next.
Where's the filmmakers barging down my luck will be Frederick Wiseman, and he'll make me look like the jerk that I am. Here's 5 hours of a rabbi picking his nose and singing on the toilet. Yeah. All the good stuff I do, all the children in Africa that I have saved in my dreams. No, they won't show that. But no, here's the rabbi. He's yelling at somebody.
I'll put a good word in for you.
Would you? I would love that. The guys who make a documentary about you, tell them I'm here. Tell them I've been on the radio for 20 fucking years and nobody cares. But
I'll do a mitzvah. I'll do a mitzvah for you.
I would love that. So speaking of mitzvahs, you are, as you said, a collector of films and old recordings and sheet. Now, what do you have? 60,000 pieces of sheet music or
You've
something?
done your research. Yes, I got so much stuff that I had to buy the house next door toward me. So we share the driveway, with the other house, and I'm running back and forth like a squirrel, and it's the house is starting to fill up a little bit, and I got 40,000 pieces of sheet music. So.
Oh, 40,000, sorry. But here's then my question, and I remember Dave, the producer of this program, once interviewed Dr. Demento, if you know.
Yeah.
And Dr. Demento, just like the whole house is completely filled with recordings. And then the question was, look, yeah, you're getting up there a little bit. You're your 30s anymore. Have you made arrangements?
Yes.
Whether you might have family, you have kids, so they might be dealing, or no.
No,
so,
no kids.
Have you spoken to a university or a library?
Yes, I have. And I've shipped so far, this is duplicate arrangements. See, back in the days when I was collecting, a lot of times you'd find a collection, they say you can't cherry pick. You got to take the whole Megillah. So, it's great, but it's not great, because then you're stuck with duplicates. So I would put the duplicates on the side, and a lot of, let's see, I think about 13,000 band arrangements have gone to North Texas State, and eventually my whole collection will go to Mississippi State. Now, I have no connections with these folks at all, but I kept on asking everybody, Jazz at Lincoln Center, the Smithsonian, the Library of Congress.
Ace Hardware Store, because I know some of those guys really like this kind of music. Yeah.
That would be great. Anyone wants to keep it. And they said, no. A lot of the universities would say, Vince, is this music going to be used by our modern jazz ensemble? And I got to be truthful. It's not. This is old. This is Irving Berlin and Gershwin and Duke Ellington and film music, silent film music. No, it's got to be studied and enjoyed like that. So when the documentary came out, two people from these two universities saw it, and they said, "What are you going to do with this stuff?" And I said, "Well, I'm glad you asked, because I love your cup there. It's great."
Thank you very much.
This is my Goisha cup here.
I've got a Yiddish cup there. So, but
I hope so.
A beverage. I was drinking from the wrong mug for a moment, and I forgot that I have this beautiful new Jewish mug here.
Yeah.
Oh, but so you're saying, so Mississippi, I guess, well, it sort of originated in that area, the music, to an extent.
Yes and no, but this is all New York, Tin Pan Alley. This is all the music that comes from the music publishing company.
Speaking of New York, let me ask you another film that you were involved in, and probably on camera more than a lot of these others, was Francis Ford Coppola's Cotton Club.
Yes.
Cotton Club. Yeah, there you go. You need a band. So, what was, because Coppola had been for a while riding this wonderful wave of The Godfather, most important filmmaker of that era, for a moment, and then just, how did he manage? Because that was sort of a comeback try for him.
Yeah.
Could you feel the pressure? What was he like when directing that?
Oh, he was very easygoing, and he was trying to deal with all the temperaments of the stars. I mean, our little scene at what we call Vera's nightclub. Vera was the lead there. What was her name? Come on, Vince. Richard Gere, Diane Lane. And she becomes the singer, and Richard Gere is the jazz trumpet player. People were walking off and fighting and disputes and all that kind of stuff. I'd get out of the way.
Oy.
So it took us over a week and a half to film that scene. We filmed it in the old Paramount Studios in Queens, where the Marx Brothers made their New York films. It's now as Kaufman Astoria, but it's really the Paramount Studio, the Long Island Paramount Studios, as they used to call it. So it was really great being back there. Bob Wilbur, a wonderful jazz man, he came into a club and said, we've shot a lot of the big band scenes, which is black musicians at the Cotton Club, but we need a small white band. Will you guys do it? So I said, sure. So it says, you got to cut your hair. One guy's got to shave his beard. You know, hooray for Hollywood. So
Yeah, before my sermons on Saturdays, I bleach my tuchus hair. I did it too. Yeah.
How about your Pippic?
The Pippic is fine. It's an innie. So whatever's going on in there, which is it's the germs you don't want to know about, but nobody sees them. I just feel them. You know, I know they're there.
I just wanted to know. I just had to know.
So he drafts you to do this movie. Some of the things in the movie when they meet white guys in a band.
Yeah, sure, because it was a white club. So we took a small contingent of my band, a trumpet, a sax, drums, piano. I was playing banjo because they didn't want a bass. I played banjo and guitar, which I do, and it was great. They were very humble man. You know, you see these old documentaries about some of the directors like Erich von Stroheim, you know, screaming at people and throwing things down. And so,
but what the hell was wrong with Richard Gere and Diane Lane? Nobody even knew Diane Lane at that point. She was a kid. Yeah. What the hell were they screaming at?
Well, she was a little nervous about singing, and actually, if the truth be known, she sang and it wasn't that good, so they had to dub in the voice from a real singer. So she was really uptight about that. And Richard Gere was really playing the cornet. He hadn't played since high school. So there was a lot of tension there. He's trying to play in a trump, any instrument. You gotta use it, or else you'll lose it. So
speaking of like,
yeah, and who else? I don't know what else was going on. I mean, that movie was just laden with problems. Somebody got killed out in Vegas or something like that. If you look into the whole thing, there was a lot of underneath.
Well, at least all you saw was a couple of arguments.
Exactly.
You didn't see the murder that went on.
No.
Let's get back to instruments, because your first the saxophone, or did like you tried piano first and then look at this beautiful thing. I think I can blow into this.
No, actually, it was the violin. I grew up in Long Island. I went to Hauppauge in Smithtown and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm an Island guy, even though I was born in Brooklyn. And when the instruments came available in the third grade, they said, who wants to play an instrument? I raised my hand and said, what do you got? I said, we got violin. All right, I'll take it. And the violin's a great instrument, but it is really, 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 really hard. And my teacher, if you want to call her that, I think she was expecting Itzhak Perlman, in 2 months. And it ain't going to happen, and I would get headaches.
Well, because in next, you go, it's like Igor after 3 weeks. Yeah.
Exactly. And kids were crying. So she destroyed the whole string session. Everybody quit. A couple kids stayed there. I didn't do anything until the 7th grade. We had a junior-senior high school. It was a small community. But I've been collecting records and listening to records since I was 5. My grandmother was an Al Jolson freak. She had a Vitaphone, right? You actually had, was it a cranky thing or? Yeah, an old Victrola. Yeah. In fact, I have it upstairs. It's my Rosebud. So this is where it all started. And I would run to that phonograph and play all these old records from the 20s. Just fantastic things. So the school director says the only instrument we need is a tuba. Because our tuba player is graduating. So he pulls the tuba out. Here, try it. I make a terrible noise. He says, you sound great. This is in very big contrast to my teacher. So he gives me a tuba to take home that day, and all of a sudden I become Tubby the Tuba. That's all
Unfortunately, that's what they're going to call you, yeah.
And I was a big fat kid, so it went along with it. So whatever, the shoe fits. But I started trying to play along with my old records, my grandmother's records that she gave me, because I could hear that tuba. And I put the tuba down and I said, that's it. That was the moment. I said, I want to do something with that old scratchy music in my lifetime. And everybody says, you're crazy, you're Meshuggah. They didn't tell me Meshuggah. We didn't talk Meshuggah back then. But I kept going. This was my calling. This is where my heart was going. I had to recreate this music. And originally we started out with little small bands, a trio or quartet, which was fine.
With you on sax, right? Not tuba.
No, tuba.
No, you were still tuba. Wow, yeah.
The tuba. And then And then the high school, the string guy, he found out I loved the 20s. So he comes to me, he says, you know, you like the 20s? I said, yeah. Back in the 20s, a lot of the tuba players doubled on string bass and vice versa. I said, really? He was smart. So all of a sudden, I was playing the string bass. They did it. Like you see the Paul Whiteman band or the Leo Reisman band. They got a couple of horns there, that tuba and a... Then I heard this instrument called the bass saxophone. And I said, I got to get this. And I drove my parents crazy, driving all over Long Island. You know, you'd show up and the little old lady, you know, you'd look at it and it's a tenor sax, which is smaller. I said, no, it's got to be big. This looks big to me. Well, how big is big? You know,
women always ask that, but all right, yes.
Way before the internet, way before you know, and I was this young kid, but I finally found a bass saxophone. So I was playing these three instruments. And then I was working in antique shops for, not for money, but for the junk they have in there, like records and sheet music. And I found a banjo and I started teaching.
I'm going to stop you right there because I read somewhere that said something really fascinating somewhere about the banjo. And it isn't just this, you know, it's got this great plucky sound. It isn't just a substitute for a guitar. In some ways, back in the day, it was a substitute for a drum.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You were correct, Sal. You did your research.
I know, yeah.
Paul Whiteman in his book mentions in the early days they had a hard time recording drums with the old acoustic method when they had the horn, and the drums would knock the needle out. So with a drum, if you look at a banjo, it's got like a drum head with strings on it, and he would call it his tune drum because you get the blank, 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 blank. It would keep nice time like a snare drum. Same kind of deal. So they used the banjo that would cut through. Guitar didn't record that well. And also banjo was louder. And when you played in these big dance halls, you needed a banjo. Have you had Henry Sapoznik on your show?
No, I do not. Who's Henry Sapoznik?
Henry, yes, he plays the banjo and he's big with the klezmer music.
Ooh.
So I should
have Sapoznik. Hook me up. I'll do it. Yes.
That'll be great. He's wonderful, and he's done some award-winning things. And we talk banjo all the time, Henry and I.
Wow. All right, but you know, we're going back to this is the next instrument that you picked up after doing tuba and then sax and bass sax. And then you go, oh, I better learn to do and string bass and this. So then, like, were there more added? Did the harmonica coming at some point to do?
No, harmonica's too small. You can't have so. You got to schlep to make. So I play drums also.
You do play? Oh wow, yeah.
Not in a Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich style, but enough to keep time. And because it's very simple. I'm a very simple drummer, and I've recorded sometimes with Redbone on the drums, and I was the drummer in the band when I couldn't find a drummer. You know, when you play 1920s music, it was very simple music to be in the tradition, and you get a drummer in and he wants to be crazy all the time, and he said, I don't need that. You got to save that for other gigs. So guys would quit. So it was easier for me to play the drums and hire a tuba bass player, so I could be very simple and be proper in what we were doing. So I kind of just moved myself into these things.
Now, since you are, you can write music, certainly on the Sibelius program you were talking about. Did you ever write songs yourself? Did you ever create any jazz tunes or any kind of tunes that you wrote?
I did. I'm too critical of myself, though. I mean, I can't come up against Gershwin and Berlin and Jerome Kern, and those are big shoes to fill. But I did some little bluesy thing for a film called Kill Your Darlings. I called it the VG Blues. The VG Blues.
No. Yeah, I got it.
And that got me all of like 39 cents in royalties. But
speaking of which, we're talking money. This excites me as a Jewish person.
Yes.
So when you do a movie, right?
Yeah.
Is it a one time they give you a certain amount and boom, or do you get royalties like whenever somebody shows Cafe Society on Netflix or wherever, so that nobody rents a DVD anymore, but you know what I'm saying? Do you get a check for 2 cents in the mail, or you just got one payment and boom?
Pretty much we got our primary payment, and a little bits and pieces, but it's very minimal. It's most of my money comes through Screen Actors Guild, which I joined. I'll tell you a funny story about that. I was doing a Woody Allen film. Let's see, with guitarist. Come on, it's Sweet and
Low Down, right?
Sweet and Low Down.
Yeah.
And we shot it in Brooklyn. And the star, come on, Vince.
Oh, I know him. I can picture him.
Sean Penn. Sean Penn. He was in this big chair. This was a little shtick that he comes down in the chair playing the guitar like Django Reinhardt. And they had a fellow to do the scene. He says, "No, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it." And he's a great actor, but he's not a stuntman. So we're on this stage, and he's swinging around, and one take, this monstrous chair, which is all iron and wood, probably like 300 pounds of stuff on piano wires. It comes like 2 inches in front of my nose. It's going to take my nose off. So I'm what we call faking it, because the soundtrack is playing. And I said, hey, watch it. So we finished the scene, and somebody comes up with headphones and a clipboard, and they said, "Vince, did you say something in that last take?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, hey, watch it, because he almost took my nose off. He says, "You're going to have to join Screen Actors Guild for talking in the movie." And I said, "Great." And that's how I got in, by my nose.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And it's not even a Jewish nose, because if you had my nose, you would have been in the Actors Guild 30 years earlier, because it was poked into any movie, even if it was on set. It would just reach that far. So, and also I assume you made a pretty good living when you were playing in places like Iguana and Red Blazer 2 and all these clubs all over there. I mean, you probably, that's probably a nice, decent payday, even if you're splitting it among like 6 guys.
Yeah, well, it's 11 guys we got.
Gewalt.
Exactly. So, but we used to do a lot of concerts. At one point, we did weddings. We did a few bar mitzvahs. We had a couple of kids that really wanted old music. So they'd pick out the music, they'd hear these old tunes, and then, of course, then they went into the DJ, which happens with a lot of weddings, because they bring it up to date, because we only do, what we do what we do. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't really get calls for that anymore. Everybody's got budget restraints, so you don't have to get a DJ anymore. You get a little iPad, and you program the music. You hit the button. The iPad doesn't ask for a drink. It doesn't have to go to the bathroom. It doesn't eat. It doesn't take breaks, and you exactly what you want. So it's okay,
It doesn't take the matron of honor and get laid in a nearby room. It doesn't have to do that sort of thing. It's a kind of a loss if you think about it. These things, these grouping, gathering simchas, if you will.
Yes.
And now, I mean, I wonder. It just occurred to me, like New Orleans funerals. Are they even doing those, where they parade through the streets after someone kicks it? I don't know.
We've done some New Orleans funerals and things like that, and
yours is the perfect mute with all not the up tunes, but it's you're doing some of those blues.
Well, in the beginning, you do the slow, sadful thing, and then when you're going from the ceremony, you do the happy, the rejoice, and we celebrate the life of.
Let me put you on the hot seat just a little bit. Vince Giordano, by the way, just a little bit, because it is 2020. And when we think of you and the guy and all these bands, and I'm sure you backed up female singers, but have you ever had women in your band?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, we had Bria Skonberg many times, a wonderful young trumpet lady. Look her up. She got a nice contract for Columbia Records. Mazel, fantastic. Jenny Scheinman, wonderful.
I like these names: Skonberg, Scheinman. Yes.
And who's our little other violinist who subs for? We have Andy Stein, and he's.
Yeah. All right.
But
so it's because I always think in terms of these old guys, white guys, get up there and play the music. It's kind of nice to know that as much as the music is traditionalist, they're able within the band to say, "Oh, of course we got a female violin player, a female pianist, a black person doing a Latin person doing this." I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, Solid. It's really hard to get musicians to play this style and want to play this style. I got to tell you, in all truth, I got 11 people there, including myself, but I could give you lists of musicians, wonderful, great musicians, and they just say, ah, I really don't want to play that style of music. It's too old-fashioned. Uh, I've even had people call it Uncle Tom music, which it's not. And just because it's old, it's classic. It doesn't mean that we just erase it all. You got to keep the tradition, and so it's really hard to
Do you
find.
think there could be a renaissance in the way like when the Sting opened back in the, well, God, that was 50 years ago. But the Sting,
Yes.
Robert Redford and
Yeah,
Paul Newman,
yeah,
and the Great well, that did it for Ragtime.
ragtime.
And for at least 6 months, thanks to Marvin Hamlish,
Yes.
Ragtime was a craze again. Do you think it could perhaps, if like say a modern like a Taylor Swift or a
Yeah.
Kesha or somebody incorporates a 1920s tune,
Lady Gaga.
or Lady Gaga might,
What's his name?
with Tony, Lady Gaga sang with Tony Bennett, for
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you brought up the Sting because that was a big renaissance and revival for ragtime. And all of a sudden, these little kids that were playing their Bach and Beethoven and Mozart, they're playing, the entertainer, and they're getting into all these other ragtime people. I deal with a fellow whose grandfather was Mel Kaufman, who did all these great syncopated rags,
Oh.
meow, which imitates a cat and all that stuff. And I've always
Yeah.
wished that we had a 1920s movie that would have the impact of the Sting, and it hasn't happened. I mean, and then you see some disappointing things. I got to be truthful about this. The last version of The Great Gatsby,
That's
disappointed when they put in modern tech rock music in there. And I'm get these young kids come, oh, I love the music of the 1920s. I went to see The Great Gatsby. It's all like boom, 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 boom. That's not 20s music, And
yeah, I didn't even understand that in the movie I liked, the Tarantino's Inglourious Bastards. When, it's 1941 or something, or 42, and they're in this big hall, and suddenly they're playing David Bowie. I'm like, what? No, not in this, not now. Yeah.
No, I don't agree, with that kind of mishmashing, or whether they say mashup or whatever. Keep it pure. Keep it for what it is. It's like.
Speaking of Hitler, keeping it pure. Exactly. It's the one way I do agree with Hitler. The music should be pure. The races, or we can mix a little bit, but the music should have a certain Aryan purity to it, I think.
To me, it's like a meal. A certain meal that you've been eating from a kid, and all of a sudden somebody decides, well, hey, I'm going to put this crazy spice. It's like, wait a minute, this is not the way Mama used to cook it. That's how I look at it.
Now, first of all, I want to remind people that we've been talking with Vince Giordano, the multi-musician, the band leader, the man who you will hear backing Loudon Wainwright III on his new album, I'd Rather Lead a Band. Let's show that right there. See, there's Loudon up there. Is that you, near? It doesn't look like you. Who's next?
It's me in the back. It's me.
It is you. You're not wearing the glasses, but you look so handsome.
Well,
you're holding actually, and you put it out as an album. It isn't just a.
It's a CD. It's a CD, but I put the album so that the people can see it better. And I have it on my website. Please check it out. I'd love to.
And hold up the movie, the DVD again.
The movie too, sure. There's a future in the past.
Yeah. We'll link it to your website, by the way, on our site here. Vince Giordano, Notes to the Past. What was it? Say it again.
There's a future in the past.
There's a future in the past, and it's all at vincegiordano.com.
.com.
Just making sure. It's not .xxx. We're not going to go there, but you're staying with us because we have a quiz coming up with Dave, who will be administering the quiz, and he'll be playing against theater critics. Isn't that exciting?
Oh boy!
Isn't that one? What do you think? Have you
Tell him they're crazy.
Oh, they're wonderful people. They're actually really delightful, and they're pretty smart too. So it's going to be pretty fun to have that on the show. But I want to talk to you just another minute or two more.
Sure.
I don't remember now if it was 40,000 or 60,000 pieces of sheet music, which is
Well,
remote. Yeah, that's right.
It's 60,000 band arrangements and 40,000 pieces of piano sheet music. So that's 100,000 pieces of sheet music. I have about 92 filing cabinets, 5-drawer filing cabinets.
Which are the one or two that are like your most prized, precious possessions?
Well, I have an arrangement that Harold Arlen did when he first came to New York. And he wrote the arrangement on, not only was he a great songwriter and a great singer. You should hear Harold Arlen sing in his music. He wrote this arrangement, and I just happened to buy a collection of music from the band leader's widow, Arnold Johnson. And there was this great orchestration of Gershwin's The Man I Love, featuring Harold Arlen at the piano. And he writes his little jokes, on the music, like the bass player. He writes Arlen feature, and he says, "What again?" A lot of fun and comedy. So that was.
So it's an original. I know it's his actual physical.
Yeah, it's actually one of a kind, and so that was I fell off my chair when I found that, and some other things that I've gotten from band leaders that I met in the past that are with little inscriptions. I got a little piece of music with Duke Ellington's signature on it, and these are things that are very precious to me.
Absolutely, I can imagine. What about, you also collect recordings?
Yes.
Prized seed, it could be a 78 or a record.
Well, I used to do a lot of antiquing when there was antique shops, and then Northport, there's a little section of the town with trolley tracks that are there and tons of antiques, and I used to buy the 78s there. And I get this 78 home, and somebody scratched out the label on both sides. It was a Victor, and it's kind of hard to explain, but you put the record on and they play a tune, and then you play it again, and it's another tune. There's 3 tunes on one side. Yes. And I play this for people. It's called the puzzle record, which I found out later. And this was introduced in the early 30s when record sales were really down because radios were big. You turn on the radio, you could hear music for free, providing you paid for your radio. But records were 75 cents each. So
it was a lot of money back then.
You're going to buy a record or eat a sandwich. You eat the sandwich. So this is a really fun thing that I found. I've also found some of those big 16-inch discs that were used for Vitaphone soundtrack. When the Warner Brothers decided to get into sound pictures, they didn't put the sound on the film. They put the sound on the disc. So the poor operator had to start the film and start the
disc at the same time. They had to
at the same time.
It's like back in the day when we were making movies. You had to start the audio tape on one thing and the movie on the others. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and sometimes in the theaters, if it got off a little bit, you see the mouth move and then you hear the, sound. And so the people will be stomping. But I've got some of those big old original discs, and they're precious.
Can you play them? Do you have a machine on which you can?
I have a wonderful turntable that has a 16-inch arm.
Wow. Man, if I had a 16-inch arm, the women... I don't even know what that means. By the way, it is almost a little after 11:15 Eastern time here in the Daverhood, which means, alas, alack, I have to go. This is very sad for me. But the host of this program, Dave, he's been waiting. He's so patiently in the other room listening to this.
Good.
He will be here in just a few seconds.
Okay.
Continue this lovely conversation with Vince Giordano, but also begin the quiz, the Today-Yesterday quiz, which will feature Vince and our friend David Sheward, the theater critic, and one host Leslie Hoban Blake will be tuning in to play this game. So, Vince, if you could just stay right there, I'm going to allow, you know what? Give me just 10 seconds. Everybody, talk amongst yourselves as I try and find a little music to play. Can you play something or hum something? Just while I go get Dave in the other room. Can you pick up your sax and blow
Hold on.
It'll be amazing. This would be unbelievable. Vince Giordano, how delightful this is. This is going to be fantastic. Of course he grabs a string instrument. Here we go. Vince, it's all yours.
Yes, sir, that's my baby. No, sir, only baby. Yes, sir, that's my baby now. Ma'am, we've decided. Oh, ma'am, we won't hide it. Yes, ma'am, you're invited now. Oh, by the way, when we reach that, reach your arms and sing. Hallelujah. Yes, sir, that's my baby. Yes, sir, don't be maybe. Yes, sir, that's my baby now. Are you back, son? Keep back. I'm running out of music. You're back.
Yes, sir, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, sir, that is Vince Giordano here in the Daverhood, the band leader, and we have perfect in time for the holidays. Our theater critic friend. Oh no, actually, we were expecting David Sheward to be with us. Unfortunately, I don't know where he is. We have Superman. I don't know where he came from. Mild mannered.
Well, you said to wear a costume.
Oh, did I? Oh.
Yeah, you did.
They didn't tell me.
Sorry. Well,
you said costumes encouraged.
Yeah,
this doesn't fit me anymore. So
I think Vince is going to go put on a costume to be part of this, or is he masking himself?
I read it too long. It doesn't really fit anymore.
I love it. Thank you guys. I really should. I'm sorry for not wearing a costume. But it's to see. But this is David Sheward, by the way. David, that is Vince Giordano, and this is Leslie Hoban Blake, who's going to be joining us. She's also a theater critic and a theater director as well. So she's joining us too. It's in the other closet room. We can do that too. My wife may be forcing me to put on a potato costume. We'll see.
Oh dear.
So, but whoa, wow, hello. and as quick as she was there, she vanishes.
There we
She's
go.
back. Ladies and gentlemen, so we're watching the Dave's Gone By Facebookio Podcastio Programmio of the Stream with me, Dave Leftwitz, and our guests here to play the Today Yesterday quiz. We have Superman, aka David Sheward, who is a writer and is davidsays.com is your blog, right?
No, it's David Desk.
David Desk.
David Desk.
Yeah.
David Desk is my blog, and I write for culturalweekly.com and theaterlife.com.
Theater, that's it. I'm so sorry. There's a lot going on here, and I'm potatoing as we speak. So, and King Potato.
Yeah.
This is just wrong on so many levels.
It is wrong.
and how can I not also welcome our great friend Leslie Hoban Blake, who is masked as Princess Katerina or something. What are you going as?
It's whatever I could find from the Great Comet. This was what was left over.
Well, did you use that in a play at some point?
No. I actually got it to wear as a mask at some point, and I have it. It's the sort of thing you don't throw away. It's a nice one, It's like solid. Nice. So
it is quite.
Thank you.
Your crawl.
Oh, I love it, David.
Is Critics' Choice.
It's actually okay. Critics Circle is the name of the show. Critics' Choice is the name of our Jeopardy group.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right.
Okay, no problem.
Leslie and I had a wonderful time about a week ago. She invited me and my wife Joyce to play. Yeah, to play Jeopardy among.
And David is welcome as well if he's not too tired after a day of work.
We'll see. Thank you.
David's also a school teacher, by the way, in the New York City schools.
David would have been very helpful because I made two really big boo-boos on that show.
Oh, we won't get into that. We can get into that another time, but I don't want to keep our very special guest waiting. Vince Giordano, he's going to be playing with us, and not in a naughty way, the Today, Yesterday quiz. I'm going to take this off so I can actually...
Now, Vince, are you the Vince Giordano I think you are?
No, which?
How do you answer that question?
Well, when I hear the name Vince Giordano, the next thing that comes up is "and the Nighthawks."
Yeah, that's me. That's me.
That's you. I went to Birdland to see you, I think.
Oh, when I was working with Dave Oswald?
Yeah. Sure. Wow.
Well, nice to see you again. How are you?
I am very thrilled to be working on or against you, or however this is going to work.
Yeah, I'm a little
I may
nervous.
not be able to wear this for the whole show, just so
Okay.
you know.
I don't know if I can wear this either.
But the nice thing about this is, look, it has a headband.
Oh, no, you look lovely, Leslie. And ketchup is because it's nothing.
Ketchup, thank you.
As well. Yeah, that's the kind of comedy we do here.
I like.
Thank you, Hon. Thank you.
I like ketchup on my potatoes.
Yes. I'm waiting for Joyce to open that bottle and pour it all over David. That's the scene I'm waiting for.
Leslie, that's our alone private time.
Sorry, I didn't mean to go there.
But yes, that is the real Vince Giordano, the real Leslie Hoban Blake, and the real David Sheward, all coming here to play the Today, Yesterday quiz game. You guys know how it works, but I'll clue Vince in how this happens. First of all, we're going to ask everyone to pick a number between 2 and 12. So, just call it right out.
First, no?
Well, okay, Vince goes first. He's a special guest. You're right.
11.
11. Then ladies first or second. Huh?
6. My standard 6.
Your standard 6. Okay, and Dave.
9.
9. 11, 6, 9. I'm going to roll a digital die. And let's see how this works. So this is just to show it rolls, and we have a 4.
Oh.
So let's see who is closest to 4.
I am.
You believe?
I am for once.
So this gets to go first.
Oh yeah.
All right. And then we're gonna. I don't even know. And then we're gonna figure out who goes.
Is it
second.
only going to be Halloween facts today, or is it going to be other stuff?
Well, no, it's a Halloween question. It's just October 31st questions.
Okay. Well, I think that's always Halloween.
You look so serious, Vince. Vince was like, it was such a great interview, and now I'm doing this.
That's all right. You got a lot of shtick there. It's good.
Well, thank you. Our next roll of the die.
Did Rabbi Sol interview you, Vince?
Yes.
Rabbi Sol is the great interviewer. Yes.
Yeah, he looks a lot like David here.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
One could say all Jews look alike, but I don't think that's appropriate.
And by Superman's leaving. He's like,
no, I'm just getting a little bit more comfortable there.
Now it looks like you have tits.
Are you wearing that, or is it a pillow? How does that work?
It's a costume, but I'm just getting out of making myself a little bit more comfortable.
So Leslie, by the way, goes first, and since the next roll of the die is 5, 5 is closest to David Sheward's numbers. So I do believe, because David was 9 and Vince was 11. So David Sheward goes second, and our guest Vince goes third. Here's how it's going to work. If the 3 teams, 3 questions each, right? Each question is worth 2 points for the right answer. Wrong answers, you don't get penalized, but other people get to roll or get to answer the question if you get it wrong. And we figured that out. How did I do this last time? For we'll roll a die if someone gets the wrong answer, and then we figure out how to do the thing. So for this particular time, Leslie, you're going to be number 1 or 2. David, you will be 3 or 4. And Vince will be 5 or 6. All that means is when we have to roll a die to pick up a question somebody gets wrong, we roll a die and we see who.
All right, I'm 3 or 4. Okay.
Does anybody know what he just said?
No,
yes.
I don't even know what the hell I just said. I'm reading instructions from a month ago.
1 and 2. That's all I need to know. 1 and 2.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Are we ready? Leslie, you get the first question in our Today, Yesterday quiz. The year 1517. The date, of course, October 31st. Here is a quote. When our Lord and Master Jesus Christ said, repent, he willed the entire life of believers to be one of repentance. This was the beginning of a document sent to the Archbishop of Mainz. Who sent it? Okay. Give it a moment. Let the people at home kind of cogitate and gestate on it. So
Let's see if there's any answers.
give it some thought. Because unfortunately, there's a delay. So when folks are watching the show at home, we have to give them a little time so they can think about the answer. But no cheating, no Googling, no wicking. And I will read the question again. The year is 1517, Leslie, and here is a quote. When our Lord and Master Jesus Christ said, repent, he willed the entire life of believers to be one of repentance. This was the beginning of a document sent to the Archbishop of Mainz. Who sent it?
You tell me when I can answer.
I would say you can answer, Leslie.
Okay.
Go for it.
Okay.
This is my instinct.
I'm not sure of the year, but the Mainz, I think, gives it away. It was the, trying to remember what they were called. Martin Luther.
Susan Collins?
Yes, Susan Collins. It's
Jackie Barrett. No.
Jackie Collins. Wait a minute now. It's the 95, whatever they were called. Do I have to know exactly what they were called?
No, the question
The
only
95
asks who
things that
sent it.
Martin Luther tacked up on the door of the church to found, I guess it was to found Lutheranism. I'm not really sure I know all of that, but I did go to Lutheran school once, so.
Wow. Well, but the question is, it's about who sent it, just who.
I said Martin Luther.
Or is that your final answer?
Yeah, I said Martin. I know. I don't remember what they're called. There were 95 of them, and he tacked them up on the door. And
As a matter of fact, Leslie, they were called 95 Theses. No, just kidding. They were the Theses. The Theses.
Am I glad I didn't say that? Am I glad? But you know what's interesting about that?
What?
Here's the part of that I do remember. It was something to do with Wittenberg. And the only other place I ever heard of Wittenberg was in Hamlet, which is where Rosencrantz and Guildenstern go to.
They suddenly became Jewish. This is interesting.
Yes, I know.
Everything
I always
becomes
thought
Jewish
they
on
were.
this show.
Those names I always thought they were. But anyway, so there really is a Wittenberg, which I didn't know, with a W, but pronounced Wittenberg.
It was 95 Theses. Basically, it was the start of the Protestant Reformation. It was basically
They were theses. They were called theses.
Like a thesis, plural.
No, I got it. I know what you're saying.
Like a fika is one of these, I guess, or possibly not. Anywho, Vince is just like, why am I here? Why am I doing this? But the next question in our Today Yesterday quiz goes to David. He gets to, and then of course, Vince, we follow this pattern. So it'll be Leslie, David, Vince, Leslie, David, Vince. Got it for 3 questions each.
Got it.
David gets our next question. We move all the way up to 1541.
Oh, okay.
4 years after it was begun, a work of art called The Last Judgment was completed today. For 1 point, who painted it? And for the second point, where?
Susan Collins.
Lin-Manuel Noriega.
Today. And it's not Lin-Manuel Noriega.
I said Susan Collins because you said the Bishop of Maine. Or it
sounded now I get it.
Okay. All right. So anyway. All right. So The Last Judgment.
Yes. I'll repeat the question. It's 1541 was the year. 4 years after it was begun, a work of art called The Last Judgment was completed today. Okay. Who painted it? And for the second point, where?
Give me the xylophone, please.
Okay, so
Peter.
Who painted it and where?
Yes. And those questions are really connected because if you get one, you'll get the other.
Oh, well. Who painted it and where?
Have you seen it, David?
Maybe The Last Judgment. Well, the thing that leaps to mind is Leonardo da Vinci, but that's probably wrong but I have no idea. I'm going to guess. I'm just going to guess and say Leonardo da Vinci in Rome.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I'm sorry, David.
Oh, well.
It is not the correct answer. So let's see. Leslie, you're 1 and 2. David, you're 3 and 4. And Vince, you're 5 and 6. So I'm going to roll the die until we get to one of those numbers.
I want somebody to fix my hair and take care of me. That's not fair.
This is my fault. What can I say? So that was a 4. We came up 4. So obviously you can't answer again. We have a 2. So Leslie gets to answer the question and see if she can.
David is far better traveled than I, and I thought he would have seen this. I've never seen it in person, but I believe it's that's a piece of the Sistine Chapel, and it was Michelangelo, I believe. It's
Is that your final answer, Leslie?
yeah. You were close with the Leonardo da Vinci, you know. I mean, it was one or the other, right, in your head?
It was one or the other, and Leslie got it. It was an altar of the Sistine Chapel painted by Michelangelo. It was the chapel, the Last Judgment, religious, you know.
Now, the fact that I said Rome doesn't count because Vatican is not part of Rome.
Oh,
Right.
man.
Wow.
He's right, you know.
David gets a point.
All right, David gets a point,
Okay.
and Leslie gets both points. She gets
Only
two.
because the waitress from Monty
Oh, that's right. What
Python.
happened to the wait? Well, can Superman do the waitress from last
I'm not dressed properly for it.
Well, you do. You do have a big chest. You know, you could be like one of those diner women.
Oh, well, I don't know. Would you like some spam, love? Here in the Sistine Chapel.
This is what the pandemic does to people. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're
Oh, I
going
have to
move
tell you,
back-
I just have to tell you something really funny.
Please.
The last time I was on, I was staying at my mother's, and I was in the living room. She was at the dining room table listening to all this. And after we finished, she said to me, well, that was about the dumbest thing I ever heard.
But how did she really feel? But how did she really feel, David?
She said, well, David, that was a complete waste of time.
For this, I sent you to college. This is that's
3 hours a week. That's
Yeah.
what this is. I know. Thank
poor
you.
Vince
Thank you,
is
Mom.
sitting there so patiently, and he hasn't been able to say anything.
Well, this is Vince's turn now. Vince gets to answer this today, yesterday trivia quiz question. This happened on October 31st in 1847. This group of pioneers, beset by bad luck on their way through the Oregon Trail, established a winter camp on this date, only to be hit with a freak snowfall just a week later. The result? Death, disease, murder, and cannibalism. Name this unhappy bunch. Okay, so give it a moment to think for. Oh, yeah.
Lewis and Clark expedition.
Lewis and Clark, is that your final answer?
That's my only answer.
Lewis and Clark expedition is. Oh, sorry, it is not the correct answer. We're going to have to throw this open to the others with a roll of the die. Where's my die roll?
Wow.
What's that, babe?
I just saw what Vince.
Oh, yeah, Vince, is that Glockenspiel? What is that?
These are dinner chimes.
Oh, dinner chimes.
I knew that rang a bell.
Like if you want a
Did
cruise
you
ship.
actually use them to call for dinner at your house?
Yes,
Oh,
Unbelievable. I want to live at your house.
like in a 1940s movie.
I know.
exactly.
All right, we have a 4. What's happening, Vince, in case you don't know, is I've got a program here. It's just a website where it's roll a die. And that's how I'm digitally rolling a pair of dice or a single die here. So the die has been cast, and it has been cast to the number 4, which means that David Sheward gets to answer, if he
Okay.
can, this question. I'll read it. I'll read part
He
of it.
looks remarkably well fed for the answer to this question.
Okay, go ahead.
So 1847 was the year. Group of
He's been
pioneers.
working out a bit, huh?
Bad luck on the Oregon Trail, established a winter camp only to be hit with freak snowstorm. The result, death, disease, murder, and my particular favorite, cannibalism. Name this unhappy bunch. David Kanya.
The Donner Pass Party.
It's the Donner Party, or they call the Donner Reed Party. Because if you've ever seen that Jimmy Stewart movie, you know that Donner Reed was in there. But 48 out of the 87 people actually did survive, some of whom had a rather interesting diet. But yes, it was, in fact, the Donner Party. Well
So,
done,
moral question: would you have eaten another person in that company if they were already dead?
If they were already dead, sure.
or even coffee.
I thought about that. You know,
I wouldn't kill them to get it, but
right? Well, they were,
Yeah.
and they were frozen too, which meant
Yeah.
that they were fresh.
Yeah.
So.
Well, did you ever see them? Speaking of, I was listening to Rabbi Sol, and when Vince was bringing up that special 78, they had 3 different grooves on it where you could play. Monty Python copied that. With
Oh,
their
yes, I
Python
had that
chip
one.
album. Yeah, where you put it, you didn't know when you put on side 2 which groove.
What
you were
ending you're
listening
going to get?
But I bring up Monty Python because have you all seen the Still No Sign of Land sketch?
right,
They're all on the
right.
boat and they have to start carving up each other and
Right.
deciding whom to eat. Well, anyway, all right.
I'm
Yes,
not
I
dead
remember.
yet. I'm not dead yet.
I remember that.
Well, that was Holy Grail. But next question.
I know, but it fits the situation.
Well, Vince has worked on movies. He knows these people. Here we go. The question goes to you,
Vince is
Leslie.
trying to maintain some sense of professionalism and,
And we can tell by the hat that
Not
not only
here.
is he a musician, he's a pro bowler.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that.
He's the-
1887 is the year, Leslie.
I'm sorry, what is the year?
1887. Okay, October 31st, 1887. Premiering today in St. Petersburg, Russia, is Capriccio Espagnol, the most famous work by this composer, who would also create the Russian Easter Festival Overture and the symphonic suite Scheherazade. Name him. And don't say it, let people at home. This is one of those rabbis like, ah. The year 1887, premiering in St. Petersburg, Russia, is Capriccio Espagnol by a composer who also wrote the Russian Easter Festival Overture and the symphonic suite Scheherazade. Can you name him, Leslie?
When can I say what I think it is?
First, I have to hold up our prop, which cost us thousands of dollars to make. We're very proud of it. So now that I've held up the prop and I've got our version of the dinner chimes,
I thought you fixed that thing.
Pretty
You're just gonna use it till they all fall off, right?
much, yeah.
Yep,
It's
nothing
kind of like my
left, right,
penis.
okay.
This is how it works. So, Leslie,
I've been doing this a long time. It's just, it's
Yeah.
Prerogative of age. Okay, I ran through I was running through the Danny Kaye list of Russian.
yes.
Yeah.
But the one that I think works for this, and I'm probably wrong. This is where David always gets it right and I get it wrong. I believe it's Borodin.
Sergei Borodin.
He's nodding, so maybe it's right. Oh, look at him! He's got a naked arm.
Superman, my God, you're losing. The krypton is working. What
Clark
a,
Kent!
well, Leslie,
Comfortable.
I'm very sorry to tell you that it was not Borodin.
Oh, all right.
Really?
We're both wrong.
Answer. Hmm?
Okay.
So don't say it. Don't say it. I'm
Don't
going
say
to
it.
roll a die and see who gets to pick up this question.
Okay.
So we've got the die has cast to number 5, which is a Vince number.
Okay.
So Vince Giordano, if you want to, if you can pick up this question. Who wrote Capriccio Espagnol, Russian Easter Festival Overture, and the suite Scheherazade, which and it was the Capriccio that premiered today in Russia.
I don't know. Tchaikovsky?
No, it was all these Russian composers.
Right.
I'm sorry, Vince, it was not. The question now automatically goes to David Sheward.
All right. All right. Now I know. So we know it's not Tchaikovsky, and we know it's not Borodin.
No.
It gives you a few left.
Well, it could be. It's not. I don't think it's Mussorgsky because I think he was later. And who was the one that did "Take My Hand"? I'm a Stranger in Paradise.
That was Borodin. That was the one I was thinking of. That was.
So I'm going to guess and say Rimsky-Korsakov.
Final answer?
Yes.
It's Korsa on for you, man. Yes, it was, in fact, Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov. Well done.
All
Well
right.
done, David Sheward. Oh, my goodness.
Okay.
Did anybody else do the Danny Kaye or the Tom Lehrer for that? There was.
Lobachevsky isn't in there because it wouldn't have worked. But what was the Danny Kaye? It was called,
It was called Tchaikovsky. It was from Lady in the Dark.
yeah. Well, so far, by the way, leading with the light is David Sheward with 5 points. And Leslie has 4. Vince, you'll catch up. We know you will. You'll.
He's going to show you the guy. No. Anything for a pun. Anything.
Honestly, I will. But the next question, you can build on your lead right now, David Sheward.
Okay.
Because the next question does go to you. October 31st, the year is 1922.
Okay.
Benito Mussolini becomes premier of Italy. Which of these is a multiple choice is not true about Il Duce?
Okay.
He was expelled from school for stabbing someone with a penknife. He was deeply moved and influenced by Victor Hugo's book, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. He wrote a potboiler novel called The Cardinal's Mistress. He had his own son-in-law murdered. One of these is not true about
Actually, I
Benito
believe all of
Mussolini.
them. Actually, I believe all of them. And I should know this because when I wrote my biography of George C. Scott, I did see the TV movie in which Scott played Mussolini. But I don't remember. That was a couple years ago. I do believe he had his son-in-law, played by Raul Julia in the movie, murdered. I do believe he stabbed a schoolmate. So it's either he wrote a novel or was moved by the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I will read the question again and the
Okay.
choices again, so you can make a
Okay.
answer for people at home. So 1922.
Yeah.
Benito Mussolini, that's the day, Halloween was when he became premier of Italy.
Uh-huh.
Which of these is not true about him? He was expelled from school for stabbing someone with a penknife. He was moved and influenced by Victor Hugo's Hunchback of Notre Dame. He wrote a potboiler novel called The Cardinal's Mistress. He had his own son-in-law murdered.
Yeah, they all could be true. They all could be true. I'll say the potboiler novel is the most obvious one to pick because it doesn't sound in keeping with his personality. But I'm going to say, and it's probably pretty clear he probably could have been moved by the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And it's probably some variation on that. He probably poisoned a classmate instead of stabbed them. I got to pick one. The potboiler novel.
The potboiler novel.
That's what I'll say.
The Cardinal's Mystery. Cardinal's Mistress. David Sheward. And I do kind of have to, or change it into an entirely different instrument. Yeah. David, that is not.
Okay.
He actually did write the Cardinal's Mistress. Okay. There's a book by him.
We're not allowed to steal that one? We're not allowed to steal that?
No, I'm just saying that one is off the table. He got it wrong. But now you guys get to steal. I'm just going to roll the die. And the die has come up 6. So that brings it to Vince Giordano. Vince, you can steal the question if you, it's a multiple choice. And by the way, I wouldn't know half of these questions. I make them up, but I'm not. So here are the choices that remain for things that are not, one of these is not true about Mussolini. He was expelled from school for stabbing someone with a penknife. He was moved and influenced by the Hunchback of Notre Dame. He wrote a potboiler novel called The Cardinal's Mistress, and he had his own son-in-law murdered. Which of these was not true about Benito Mussolini?
I don't know. Let's go with the son-in-law murdered.
The son-in-law murdered. You're thinking he was a horrible man, but he didn't go that far. He did go that far. I'm afraid, yes, he did in fact have his son-in-law murdered. So Leslie, Hoban, Blake, we've got 2 of the answers crossed off. One of them is correct in the sense that it was not true about Mussolini. So you get to steal.
Interestingly, the George C. Scott movie was very much Hollywoodized, but there was an Italian movie about 8 or 9 years ago in which they painted him so dark. This really strange looking man played him, and you just began to see evil dripping off his face by the time it was over.
Like Mitch McConnell, essentially, yeah.
Yes, without a chin. But we go back to this. If we were listening, David actually gave it away because we know that Raul Julia played the son-in-law who was murdered. And Vince guessed. Am I allowed to ask Vince again what he guessed? He guessed the son-in-law.
He guessed the son-in-law.
He guessed the son-in-law.
I guessed the romantic novel.
Right.
I can read the question again, Les, if you want.
Well, there are only 2 things left, so I don't. One is about stabbing the kid.
No, that was
the
already.
The other is about the hunchback, right? Those are the 2 that are left.
The hunchback and stabbing the kid, stabbing the school.
Stabbing the kid and the hunchback. The movie that I saw, and Vince, David and I know a lot of our facts from movies that we've seen or plays. The movie that I saw showed him crying at opera. So I'm going to go with the hunchback because he was a real sentimentalist at heart.
So you're going to say that isn't true about him? That he did
No, that
not,
is. Oh, no. So what isn't true is stabbing the kid.
what
Not that I'm
isn't
sure he
true is
wouldn't
stabbing
have
the
done
kid?
it. Yeah, not that I'm sure he wouldn't have done it.
Whoa! I don't know how often this is going to happen.
You're all
But
wrong.
all wrong.
All wrong.
Oh.
Here's the thing, but it was sort of a trick question. I kind of got a little evil myself here. What happened was that Mussolini was tremendously influenced by Les Miserables,
Oh.
not the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
I had a feeling.
Yeah,
Something like that.
and he did have his son-in-law killed because he thought the guy betrayed him, and he was expelled for stabbing one kid with a penknife, but he actually stabbed a couple of people, including girlfriends, with penknives. He was quite a fella.
Well, the
Anyway,
Les Miserables makes sense because he started as a ragazzo. He was a ragazzo on the street. He had nothing, and
so that
came
would
up,
have talked to him and spoken to him. So it wasn't
literally
like he was
came up
ignorant.
stabbing by stabbing kind of thing.
Yeah. Anyway, let's take a stab at our next question, which will go to Vince Giordano.
Oh, my.
Here we go. But we move up to a more modern-ish. This is your perfect era. It's not about music though. But 1941 is the year. Finished today in the Black Hills of South Dakota is Mount Rushmore, which features 4 men carved into the stone. For half a point each, name the 4 faces
Oh,
on
good.
Mount Rushmore.
No.
It's
That's my
easy.
question.
It seems easy, but you might not.
Yeah. Well, you got Washington, you got Lincoln, you got what else we got there? Roosevelt. And there's a 4th guy. I can see the thing right in front of me here, but I can't remember the 4th fella. It's that's it. I can only give you 3. I'm sorry.
Give me 3. I will have to ask. Roosevelt is correct, but I do need a first name on that one.
Oh, Teddy.
All right. So Vince Giordano, you have 1 3/4. Is that right? Points, or 1.5 points. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1.5 points. Sorry, a half a point is up for grabs, ladies and gentlemen, in our quiz. Which, by the way, there are no prizes. There's no nothing. We're just doing this for no good reason
Yeah.
whatsoever.
What's the point?
Oh,
No, you're in the house anyway. We're going to defend it, right?
We're not even helping somebody at home. Winning Carl whatever Castleberry's.
I would donate mine to the Actors Fund anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay.
Oh, well, I rolled the dice. It came up 6, so I'm gonna roll again,
Okay.
and it rolled 3. So
Okay.
3 is you, David Sheward.
All right.
So you can steal. Vince mentioned a few people who are on Mount Rushmore in the Black Hills of South Dakota, but he couldn't think of that last one. Can you?
Thomas Jefferson.
And the answer is
Lin-Manuel Noriega.
no, Suzanne Collins. And I almost had it. Yeah, it was in fact, yes, Thomas Jefferson. He was.
Okay, if he gets that half a point, I want to take back the point he got for Rome. I'm sorry. I was being magnanimous, but I don't feel magnanimous now.
Too late. No backsies, Leslie.
I know.
Otherwise known as David Diggs or Ken Howard.
Yes.
Oh, Ken Howard twice actually. Well,
1770.
Or wait a minute, or Nick Nolte.
Oh yeah, Nick Nolte played him in the movies. Yeah.
Right.
And Sam Neill in the TV movie.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah.
Sam Neill, that would have been a good choice.
Okay,
And,
let me see where we are in the quiz. Leslie has 4.
Not enough, I say.
That's 5.5. And Vince has 1.5 points in our yesterday quiz. But now Vince gets to do some who's next? I'm sorry, no.
Leslie
the next
next.
question goes to Leslie.
next.
And we go all the way up, and you're a movie person, you'll get this one. The year is 1962, all right? Released today was the campy gothic horror classic, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, starring Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. What plus-sized actor played Edwin, the pianist who accompanies Jane on I've Written a Letter to Daddy? So
Tell me
Mull
when
on
you,
that question for a moment.
tell me when you want me to answer.
Hold on, not yet, not yet. 1962 was the year. Released today was the campy gothic horror classic, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, featuring Betty Davis and Joan Crawford. But what plus-sized actor played Edwin, the pianist, who accompanies Jane on I've Written a Letter to Daddy? Okay, give it a moment. I've actually dropped my musical stick here. But I guess I can play with him. There we go.
Oh dear.
Leslie,
Yes?
can you name this performer?
I believe it was the poor, sad, and underrated Victor Buono. I believe. Thank you,
You
David.
believe, but do you believe well enough to make that your final answer?
Yes, that's my final answer.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Victor Buono, well done, Leslie. 2 points for you. It was, in fact, Victor Buono. He does more than, he actually has a few scenes in the film, but
He was nominated for an Oscar.
yeah.
I know he was a very good actor, but he had such a sad life. You know, it was one of those
He in the
short,
closet
messy,
or?
sad lives. But
He was in the closet.
Right. I always thought if he married Sonny Bono, he could be Victor Bono Bono, which would be, I always wanted that. It never happened, but I'm very sorry. Anyway, I'm not sorry. David Sheward, you get the next question. I do believe
Okay.
we move up to that all-important, well, no, not terribly important, year 1984.
Okay. Which
When-
we're living in now.
When the
Ah!
Prime Minister of India is assassinated, her son takes over. Name him.
Wait, say that again?
The year was 1984. When the Prime Minister of India is assassinated, her son takes over.
Oh.
Name him.
Well, I know that the she you're referring to is Indira Gandhi. But Gandhi is not her name. She adopted it. And the kid's name, was it Nehru? I know that there was the Prime Minister of India at one point was Nehru, and because of the jacket. And I think was her son named Nehru?
Oh my God.
Well,
what's up with Leslie?
Lizzie's laughing at the assassination here.
I'm laughing at the connection to the jacket. That's all I'm laughing at.
And I think his name was Nehru. Oh, by the way, Victor Buono, I agree, was an underrated actor because his performance as King Tut on Batman was
Astonishing.
one of the better. No, it was like if you look at it, when I was looking at it as a kid, it was like kind of funny and silly. But now I look at it, it's like, wow, he's really funny, and it's really an amazing performance. Anyway.
So, but
all right, but I was distracting you from
course.
Oh, and also I knew the Donner Pass because there was a play about that.
Oh,
Called Devour the Snow,
Yes.
which was off Broadway. And my
said
college did a production of it, and I worked backstage on it. All right.
Devour the Snow.
Devour the Snow was
The
called.
toppings were just horrible. That was
Watch out for the yellow snow.
Well, I'll say Nehru.
but I'm going to need a first name too.
Ah, okay. Oh, you're getting tricky now.
A little bit tricky.
All right. So it was Nehru. So
I didn't say that it was Nehru. I said that I need a first name.
Oh. Muhammad?
And
Is there a stealable point for the first name?
well, you got to get the whole thing right. So, David, I'm afraid that was not the correct answer.
Okay.
So I'm going to throw this. Oh, I'm not going to throw this open. I'm going to roll a die and see who gets to steal.
Did you see my monkey, David?
I'm not even going there. I rolled a 4, so that won't work. I just rolled a 2, so it is Leslie who gets to try and steal. I'll read the question again. 1984. When the Prime Minister of India is assassinated, her son takes over. Can you name him?
I'm going to go with what David said. I'm going to go with Nehru, but his first name was Pandit. If it is Nehru, it may not be Nehru, David. I couldn't come up with anybody else either.
Well, I'm a bit of a pundit myself. Oh, Leslie! You're wrong. No, that is not the correct answer. No, it is not. So Vince Giordano, do you want to take this one? Are you a history buff? Who was this prime minister's son who took over after she was assassinated?
Jeez. This is not, I don't know. Benjamin? Benjamin Nehru?
Benny Nehru.
Yeah.
Saul.
Oh.
I'm so sorry, and it was very tough with you, Dave Sheward, because what happened was you started going on that jag, and it is, even though he is the son of Nehru and Indira Gandhi, he
Yes.
kept the name Gandhi.
Oh, okay.
It was Rajiv Gandhi,
Oh, okay.
who was, by the way, here's a not fun fact, he was also assassinated. They
Oh,
do not have good luck with politics in India, I'm telling you. So, but yeah, that was the thing. He kept going, and I couldn't, because I want to go first name, and that's why that
Okay,
got
sure.
me for a moment.
all right.
But I'm afraid we got no points for anybody on that one. We have a couple more questions in our yesterday.
Okay.
In fact, this is the last question without.
Last round.
But here we go. This one will go to Vince Giordano.
Again?
Well, yeah, because you were.
That was an opportunity to steal, Vince. This is your real turn.
Oh, I see. I'm just getting the hang of this here.
Yeah.
So we already, but anyway.
Well, that's news to me. Here we go. 2003 was the year. Soul Surfer, a true story of faith, family, and fighting to get back on the board, is an autobiography by Bethany Hamilton. In it, she tells the story of what happened to her on October 31st, 2003. What did?
What did?
I'll read the question again.
Yeah, please.
The year was 2003.
Yeah.
Soul Surfer, a true story of faith, family, and fighting to get back on the board, is an autobiography of Bethany Hamilton. In it, she tells the story of what happened to her on October 31st, 2003. What happened to her?
I'm giving you clues all over the place, Vince. Grab one of them.
She got bitten by a shark.
Is that your final answer? I'm not sure why I'm holding this up.
That's my only answer.
Can you be more specific?
Well,
A little bit more specific.
let the host, the
Well,
moderator,
sure.
the moderator.
You're right, David. You're right. Sorry.
So what happened? I will hint you on this because you are our guest. You're on the right track. Very much on the right track.
That's not a good hint.
She got her legs bitten off.
I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to deduct
Shoot off.
like a half point on that one. I'm gonna have.
What?
you kind of get to steal. Hold on. So sick.
What else did she lose? Her took us.
Well, the number 3, David, do you want to steal on this? She did not get her legs bitten off. What happened?
Don't you have to roll the dice to see who steals?
I do. You came up number 3.
It
Yeah.
is? Okay. Oh, okay. Now I was going to say something like that, but her arm was bitten off.
And that is the correct answer. The answer I was looking for is
There wasn't much left, was there?
because it's not just that she was bitten by a shark. She really had her arm taken off, and then and she got right back on the surfboard like weeks later, which is crazy.
It was longer than a few
And
weeks.
she used the other arm to steer.
Oh.
I can't even. So anyway, so Vince got,
capitalism and then this,
Vince got a point and a half again. I got a total. This is scorekeeping is nuts here.
Vince is not used to this quiz.
Oh, I know.
It takes a long time to understand because it's kind of crazy.
So let's
It's
see
sort
where
of
we're
like-
at. We have
It's
Leslie.
sort of like Leslie.
Yeah.
It's sort of like Leslie and I are Charles Nelson Riley and Brett Summers, and Vince is sort of like Ross Martin or Patty Duke Aston, who only shows up.
I'm going to turn it.
There is a physical resemblance to Ross
Or,
Martin in the old days. Yeah.
or I don't know, William Wyndham.
I'm going to turn into Uncle Charlie here in a minute. Here,
And I will
Well,
take
let me see if we have a tie here or if we're good. We have Leslie with 6 and David Sheward with 4 or 5. Oh my God. It's Leslie 6, David Sheward 6, and Vince
Oh my
has
God.
3.
Are we tied?
You
I
and
thought you were
Vince,
We still have,
we have a tiebreaker.
doesn't that mean we have to go to the Electoral College?
So Vince, you can be Chad. Since we're hanging,
David,
or you can be the hanging Chad.
David, in no known universe would Amy Coney Barrett vote for either one of us.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well,
In no known universe.
you know what my nickname for her is?
I'm afraid to ask. Go ahead.
I call her Witchy McSuperPresident.
Oh, God. Yikes.
Now there's a costume to wear, right?
Or Serena Joy from The Handmaid's Tale.
Oh, God.
Just none of you try and avoid an abortion over the next couple of years. It'll be.
I will.
I was planning one, but now I know I better get it soon.
And I'm glad I'm already married to my husband.
Oh yes, yes indeed. I have a tiebreaker
I just
question.
did something to my screen. What did I do? There
Yeah,
it is.
you look fine. You're a little foggy. It's a nice effect. Leslie.
All right.
It looks lovely.
Okay.
So, I'm
Gasoline
sorry,
on the-
Vince, I'm sorry, I can't. This question is just going to be between
Okay,
Leslie and
tiebreaker.
David because they're tied. So I'm going to roll the dice here, and it came up 4. So
Okay.
this question will first go to you, David Sheward.
But if David gets it, then I'm out of the game.
If he gets it, he wins.
That's not the way a tiebreaker should work, though.
How should a
Well,
tiebreaker
if we were on
work?
the
Not
weakest link,
fair.
if we were on the weakest link, it would. Well,
How is it not fair?
how do they do it on the
We
weakest
both have
link?
to have a check. Let him give his answer, and then if I have a different answer, I should be able to give it too.
Or you say what's right, yeah.
Is that? Do you agree with that,
Well,
Dave?
I'm just
If
saying,
we're
every
typing in?
argument has to
Of
be
course.
even, right?
No,
Or
or
how do we get them both at the same
You
time?
can see it, or you
You
can
can't.
everyone can see chat.
Yeah. And can you guys chat it in?
I can. Wait. I will chat I can put my answer in just to the host.
I can't do that. I don't know how to do that.
You're on a phone, right, Les? Or are you on
No,
a?
I'm on a computer.
If you look at the bottom, there's a little thing that says chat. Hover over it, and it says chat.
Wait, now I just lost everything.
No, we still see you, Leslie. You're still here.
But I can't see any of you or the page or the
In that
hover.
case,
I'm not really worth looking at, Leslie.
What did I do? Never mind. I guess David wins by default because I'm not there anymore.
Yeah, but this is the normal course of events on this program. I'm
let's
telling
ask the question.
you. So, Leslie, are you able to?
No, I can hear you, but I can't see anything.
I'll
Oh,
tell
is
you
that
what.
the
I'll
case?
tell you know what. Here's the deal. Do you have a pen and paper near you guys by any
Yes.
chance?
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes.
What I will do is on a count of 3,
But,
Wait a
after I ask the question,
Wait a minute.
you will write, and then I'll ask you both hold up your signs at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
but I can't see. But all right, go ahead.
Well, we see you, and we'll see you holding up the sign. But don't do it until I say 3, 2, 1. All right?
All right.
Well, I'm going to ask the question. After I ask the question, you guys can write your answer.
Okay.
And by the way, if you both get it right, it's a tie game, and then that's all right too.
All right.
The year 1950. Born today was this comic actor who died before the release of his last 2 films, the Western comedy flop Wagons East and Michael Moore's Canadian Bacon. Name him. I shall read that again. The year is 1950. Born today, this comic actor who died before the release of his last 2 films, the Western comedy flop Wagons East and Michael Moore's Canadian Bacon.
Can you see my answer? I'm holding it up.
You know, I don't see, I didn't ask for it yet. So
Oh.
on a count of 3, 2, 1, I will ask you both to hold it. And Leslie, if I can't see it, I will tell you. So 3, 2, 1. Let's see those answers.
I'm holding it up, but I don't think you
Higher.
can see
Leslie,
it.
hold it up just a little higher. A little bit higher. All right, I'm seeing, I can't read, even though Vince is not, I read yours, Leslie. And, oh, yes. Guess what? All of you got that answer absolutely right. The answer is John Candy, which means, oh, joy, oh, excitement. Leslie has 8 points, David has 8 points, and Vince, we're gonna give those to you because it is part of the game too, so you have 5. Well done, all of you. Very nice. Thank you for playing the game. First of all, let me thank I would say most of all, and it sort of denigrates the other 2 people, but for joining us in the Daverhood today. I want to give a big, big thank you and a shout out to our guest, Vince Giordano, Everybody go to vincegiordano.com, Giordano, vincegiordano.com. This is the place you can find out or even get the Loudon Wayne. Oh, yeah, the website is linked. If you go to our Facebook page, you can even click on the link directly to vincegiordano.com.
Thank you.
The Loudon Wainwright album, I'd Rather Lead a Band, plus the DVD of the documentary. Can people stream that documentary somewhere, or they just have to buy the DVD?
No, I think you can get it on Amazon.
Cool. And again, it's something about the past, through the past. What was it?
There's a future in the past.
There's a Future in the Past is the name of that documentary about Vince Giordano. And everybody be on the lookout for him. Be on the lookout for when you hear that jazz music in movies. He's probably playing it. And be on the lookout in sometime in late 2021 when we're allowed to go out and have fun again. He will be there with that jazz group making that kind of music. Vince Giordano, really a pleasure. And I thank you so much for being with us in the Daverhood.
Nice meeting you, Vince. I'm sorry I disappeared.
You look beautiful.
Oh, well, thank you. Oh, what a
Oh.
nice thing to say. Thank you so much.
Leslie gets the most compliments on the show.
I know. Yeah, you never
I-
said-
You know what it is? I understand good lighting, I think, is what it is.
Now, to be fair, Vince, before you can go, but do either of you have a question for Vince Giordano? You're welcome to. We have him. We're very lucky. We're thrilled.
Thanks so much for coming.
Oh,
How are you holding up under the pandemic? What are you doing with your spare time?
I'm keeping busy with home projects, working on music, and believe it or not, we did a part of a soundtrack for a new Warner Brothers film called "Don't Worry, Darling," and it's set in the late 40s, early 50s. We had to bring half the band in because of the way with the COVID and all that stuff. And then we brought the other part of the band, so we kind of pieced it together like a quilt.
Oh,
And so that was exciting to be part of. And
That's fantastic. You know, it's
Great
amazing.
to
The electronic age. Some of us, you know, if it's what's kept me sane, but it actually allowed you to continue to work. That's fantastic.
yeah,
But,
it was
but
great to see.
have you ever thought about listening to this show before you actually log on? Because that was literally the first question the rabbi had.
I watched the show after the fact. I'm sorry.
I'm just
I
being.
barely get my ass out of bed on a Saturday morning in time to
Well, you do
this.
look beautiful, Leslie. I love the haircut, and you
Thank
do
you
look
very much. The
fantastic.
haircut is nice. Thank you.
Yeah. And David, your haircut looks really nice.
thank you.
I like it better this week than last. Last week was too buzzed on the side. It was too bold on the side. Now it's really nice. Now
Thank
you're
you.
looking real good. Please remind everybody, David, where it's okay. Let me get Theater Life is one of the places, right?
TheaterLife.com and
David
Cultural
Desk.
Weekly.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
CulturalWeekly.com. And my blog is called The David Desk.
the David Desk. And also, what is the name of your book about George C. Scott? I'll bet Vince would want to read it.
Rage and Glory, The Volatile Life and Career of George C. Scott.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a real actual author, and we have Leslie Hoban Blake, whom you can hear on the podcast.
Well, you can actually see us as well as hear us. We haven't figured out how to make it a podcast yet, so it's still on YouTube. It's called Critics Circle with Charles Gross and myself.
Critics Circle featuring Charles Gross, and if you go to YouTube, you'll find this on the Two on the Aisle. Did you rename it? Is it a new channel, or is it Two on the Aisle?
It's still on David. It's still on Charles's website. You just go YouTube Critics Circle and it will come up.
Critics Circle will come up. Well, I'm so thrilled that you all came up today to do Dave's Gone By with us. Thank you, Vince. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
Leslie.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Yes. Nice to
Stay
meet you.
healthy. Thank you, and
Happy
farewell.
Halloween, everybody.
Bye-bye. Happy Halloween.
Bye.
Bye.
Be sure and vote if you haven't already. Who's ever listening.
I got.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Dave.
See you next week.
Yes, next week. I'll give you the time.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh my God, what fun! I look so different with this off. Who do I look like now? What do I look like?
You look like a peanut.
Yes, yes, I do. Oh, but look who's completely unrecognizable now. See, oh God, my ears. But look, what happened to Ketchup? Ketchup looks a little bit
David, no, you
like a pimp
you
here.
don't, no, take that.
No, I gotta take that off. All right. Ladies and
Put your
gentlemen,
arms out.
you're watching the Dave's
Put your
Gone
arms
By.
out.
Oi.
You can wear the hat if you want. The lights are on the hat, you know.
Yeah, oh, I know. They're
lights on
glowing.
the-
The Facebookio, podcastio, programmio of the stream. Woo! With me, Dave Lefkowitz, my wonderful, incredibly helpful wife,
Put on
Joyce.
your crown.
That's all right.
That's your crown.
Little bit of a holiday. It is our Halloween show, by the way. It is October 31st, 2020. It is our 770th episode of the broadcast. So yeah, we've been doing these for 18 years, all the way back from October of 2002, when we were on terrestrial radio. And we want to talk about archives. We want to talk about going to a website that has stuff. Go to davesgoneby.com, davesgoneby.com, because every show we have ever done, with like one or two that got lost in the ozone to technical difficulties, but all the others are there for free. You can surf them at any time. You can skim through them. You can listen to the whole episodes, because early on the shows were either an hour or an hour and a half, and now they're 3 or 4 hours long. It's all there. The audio, the video, the interviews, the comedy bits. davesgoneby.com. And I also do want to remind you that we post our archives at archive.org, and this is where we keep, it's the same stuff, essentially, but we want to support this nonprofit organization. Archive.org, just look for Dave's Gone By. We put our audio at castbox.fm. So if you want to enjoy an episode, but you don't have time to sit there and watch, you can bring it with you and just listen to the audio podcast. That's a good site for podcasting, castbox.fm. And of course, if you, like with Vince Giordano, if you go to YouTube and you type in Dave's Gone By with like the apostrophe, zillions of things should come up, because we post all our stuff there too. Either way, this is how you can keep up with and catch up with Dave's Gone By. Also, if you want to contact me, davesgoneby@aol.com is the way to do that, or feel free just to post right here on this Facebook page. Send me a direct message if you're on our friends list, or just post right here after the end of the show all week long. Love to hear from you. davesgoneby@aol.com is the email address, and Radio Dave 2 is the Twitter feed. By the way, the rabbi has his own Twitter feed. It's at Rabbi Sol Solomon. That's SOLSOLOMON at Rabbi Sol. Now I'm confused. At Rabbi Sol Solomon, I think it is.
Oh, God.
And his website is shalomdammit.com. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so much left to do in this episode. I do want to give a shout out to all the people who are watching. I mentioned a few early on, but I'm going to add some more. There's Megan and Evans and Mark, Dave, not me, Dave, another Dave, Edward, Rick, Barry, Honey, Jonathan, Rubina, Paul, James, Melissa, Steve, Sidney, Craig, the gardeners outside. They're lowering their blowers just to hear this show closer. Christopher, Abby, Caminini, what a beautiful name, Caminini. Scott, Diane, excuse me, another David, 2 Michelles, one with 1 L, another with 2 L's. Ooh. David and Edward again, Peter, Chris, James, Gregory, Christina, Tag. Oh boy, I'm so sorry about this, but it's a, I believe, a South Asian name. Taj, maybe. AP Channel, right? James, Rachel. Oh, the Actors Channel is tuning in. Art Paul Schlosser, oh my gosh. Hey, Art Paul, I hope you're doing great. Gail and Jonathan, Edward, Joy, Trisha, Kevin, another Edward, Cherie, Artur, Will, Steve, Bill, Peter, Bia or Bo. Bo is back. We have Bo again. Itkenefafi. Still.
What's that? Wait, show me.
It's Stephen Fish.
Yes.
I couldn't read that one. It's Stephen Fish.
Sorry.
Joey, Peter, Peter with an N. Irina, John with an N. John N, excuse me. Stephen, Michael, Warhol. Oh, all our buddies are tuning in. Ross and Mercedes and Shelley, Dale, Petra, and Pear. Oh, look at that. Art, Paul, Pear, Warhol, Bo, they're all with us. This is so exciting. I'm so thrilled. Not to mention, early in the show, we had Pookie. So it's so great that you all tune in. I just threw away my notes. Hold on. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you ever so much. So a big congratulations, by the way, to Leslie and David for tying in our Today Yesterday quiz, but a big thank you to Vince Giordano for participating. So what else do we have to do on this 770th episode of Dave's Gone By live? You can certainly tell that it's live on this Saturday morning, October 31st, Halloween 2020. By the way, we're calling this episode Convinced. Get it? Because we've been convinced. I'm sorry. All right, so moving on, we have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. We're gonna have our Dave's Big Dictionary segment, where I have to talk about the word bobsled. And our friends of the Daverhood and anything else. Oh, let's really quickly talk about the theater, because we just had a couple of theater critics in the house. And I want to tell you about a couple of folks that the theater community lost this past week. We call this particular segment, therefore, Inside
Good morning.
Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. That's very Vince Giordano type music, isn't it? That's Inside Broadway, our theme, where just for a couple of minutes, I want to tell you about what's happening about Broadway. Well, we all know, and I say this every week, Broadway stopped on March 12th of this year, owing to the pandemic, and is currently on hiatus through May 30th, 2021. That means the whole first half of next year, no Broadway. But we keep talking about this. There's no Broadway. Broadway can't, and they can't figure out how to get all these people in the room and be safe, and how to get people out on the street and the bathrooms, and what do you do? Broadway, Broadway, Broadway. Well, trying to rise above all this clamor are the folks who are off Broadway, the little theaters, the tiny theaters that give young artists and new artists a chance. What's happening with them? Because they're saying, perhaps rightfully, look, we're not the size of these giant theaters. We don't make a lot of money anyway. we're not commercial producers. We get most of our money from grants and people wandering in. Why can't we begin sooner? And so they've been so frustrated with the way things are going that they've grouped together to ask Governor Cuomo for at least a target opening date for small theaters, the theaters that are 50 seats, 65 seats, 99 seats. And among the people who are involved in this are Michael Skouros, who runs the Players Theater downtown, and our friend of the neighborhood, Catherine Russell, who basically runs and I think owns the theater center in Midtown, and you know her because she's been in Perfect Crime for 30-something years up until the pandemic. She and he have filed a class action lawsuit against, I guess, New York State, saying, look, we can do 25% houses in a safe way and build slowly from there. We don't have the certain logistics that Broadway does. Give us a date when we can, if you're doing this for restaurants, and if you're doing this for stores and these kinds of places and Starbucks, why can't we figure out for a way for us tiny theaters to get business again? And by the way, speaking of business and speaking of what the pandemic has done, after, oh my gosh, almost 50 years, Westchester Broadway Theater, the dinner theater up in Westchester, is closing down. Its last show turned out to be the Elvis-based comedy musical All Shook Up, which I rather enjoyed on Broadway. They were doing that in March. They had to stop it. They had a whole season set for them. Season didn't happen. Nothing will happen. The Westchester Broadway Theater is permanently closed. We went there to see a couple of shows on.
Where we met.
Which is actually where, it wasn't really our first date. We were kind of co-invited to a musical there. I think we saw Singing in the Rain at Westchester Broadway Theater. Oh Lord, probably 23, 24 years ago. It was in 1951 that Joyce and I went to that theater, which will now no longer be. Something else or someone else that will no longer be is Ming Cho Lee, the very venerated set designer, died this past week on October 25th at the age of 90, a Chinese-American man, started on Broadway. Check this out, assisting Joe Milziner on The Most Happy Fella, the original one. And he did some more assistant designer work in the late 1950s. He actually helped Boris Aronson on the musical Do Re Mi. But then 1962, he got his first credit for himself. He did a show called The Moon Besieged, and he did both the set and the lighting. And then he worked on the Jules Feiffer play Little Murders, the musical version of La Strada. He did The Glass Menagerie with Maureen Stapleton and Rip Torn, the original Shadow Box, the Grand Tour, that was the Jerry Herman musical with Joel Grey. And of course, what everybody really knows him for was in the early 1980s, and I actually saw this, he did a play called K2 about mountain climbers, where he basically put Mount Fuji or whatever it was on stage. It was a quite beautiful, amazing set. And he won a Tony Award for it. Ming Cho Lee did. He also did another, Glass Menagerie, in 1983, this one featuring Jessica Tandy. And his last Broadway show, it's hard to believe it was that long ago, but it was 1986, the Emily Mann play, Execution of Justice. But Ming Cho Lee didn't just work on Broadway, did more than 20 shows at Off-Broadway's Public Theater, including the original off-Broadway production of Hair. That was Ming Cho Lee. He spent years teaching at Yale. He was inducted into the Theater Hall of Fame. He won the National Medal of Arts, and he got a Lifetime Achievement Obie Award for work off and off Broadway. So a big farewell to Ming Cho Lee. And speaking of off and off Broadway, we have someone else to say farewell to in our Inside Broadway segment, but not before we remind you about this journal, this publication, Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway since 1944. This is where people in the entertainment industry turn to find out about every show on, off, and off Broadway. Now, right now, as we know, there's nothing going on, but they're planning on it, whether it's half a year or closer to a year away. Still, these were shows that were playing when the pandemic hit. Most of them are still hoping to reopen. There were shows that almost opened that are waiting to have their opening night. And then there are shows that are being planned for late in 2021, also even 2022. Find out about them in this publication. You also find out about all the theaters themselves, how many seats they have, what shows are planned or were playing there, who owns them. We go further into the magazine. We've got our calendar listing of when shows start previews, open and close, both on Broadway as well as off and off Broadway. And then deeper into the publication, well, first of all, we have, and this is real important during the pandemic, our guide to virtual shows. If you're looking for stuff to watch on YouTube that's theater-oriented, plays that were filmed or Zoom plays, we have a guide to that. So this isn't like a useless publication this year. People are using this guide to watch tons of shows they didn't even know existed, both newly created during the pandemic and shows that were broadcast on TV or in movies or on public television for many, many years that you can find for free right on the web. And then we get to, of course, the real heart of the magazine, all these shows, these productions, everything about them, the producers, the press agents, the designers, the writers, the actors, who's involved, when were they playing, when do they expect to be playing again, for Broadway, off and off. There's no other guide like Performing Arts Insider. There's even a rumor guide to shows that want to come to New York, an index in the back. Well, we don't have that much left. Honestly,
Greeley Crimes Old Times.
Oh my God, we didn't do Greeley Crimes Old Times.
You didn't do the word of today, which
is bobsled.
Yes.
Yeah, I've got that coming up. But we're almost done with our Inside Broadway segment. But I do want to remind you to go to performingartsinsider.com. Performingartsinsider.com. Bible of Broadway. Now you can either get the hard copy edition, or we can email you a PDF of the hard copy edition. It isn't a web publication. It's just this, but this has meant a lot to thousands and thousands of readers and subscribers over the years, Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway. So yeah, before we get to it, I'm so sorry, I forgot about Greeley Crimes Old Times, which we're going to get to as well. But we want to say a farewell. At the age of 103, Edith O'Hara passed away in her apartment this past week, or actually it was a week and a half ago, on October 16th. She was 103 years old. Her apartment was right above the 13th Street Repertory Theater, which she founded, which she ran, which she created. It was back in 1972. Among the people who came through those doors as actors and directors, Bette Midler, Chaz Palminteri, Jamie DeRoy, our friend of the Daverhood, Austin Pendleton, our friend of the Daverhood, Richard Dreyfuss, Barnard Hughes, Charles Ludlam, dozens of other people over the years in this small, funky little theater down on 13th Street. It was the home, as we all remember, to Brother Theodore for all those years when he would do his Saturday night show. Did you, like I did 3 decades ago, see Israel Horowitz's plays Line and Indian Wants the Bronx? Those were there. In 1974, Edith O'Hara staged the gay musical Boy Meets Boy. And this is before Torch Song Trilogy. This is before La Cage aux Folles, right? Gay musical, where 13th Street Theater downtown. We want to wish condolences, by the way, to Jill O'Hara, our friend, an actress and friend of the Daverhood, and her sister Jenny, who, by the way, they both appeared in Promises, Promises on Broadway. Jill started the show, and then Jenny succeeded her. I don't know how many times that's happened on Broadway. But yeah, they were both the children of 13th Street Repertory founder Edith O'Hara, who left the theater world and the world itself this past week or a week or so ago. So sad news, sad doing. You know, it was, I just remember year upon year, it was still Ellen Stewart at La Mama, right? Edie O'Hara at 13th Street Rep, and Crystal Field at Theater for the New City. And now it's kind of like, they go, but Crystal's still there. Crystal is still running TNC. But time passes, still ain't Broadway grand.
It's the famous gay white way where the night is bright as day. Ain't Broadway grand?
Yes, it is.
It's not just a thoroughfare, it's a tingle in the air. Ain't Broadway grand?
It's excitement, it's romance, it's all fun and song and dance. This wonderland, you can be a millionaire quicker here than anywhere. Ain't Broadway grand?
And I keep saying, the wonderful thing about Broadway is that's such a great song. It was from a big flop. A flop that I enjoyed, by the way. It was not a flop in my mind. I love the show. It's called Ain't Broadway Grand. But that song came out of a show that audiences were like mad and critics were like,
It doesn't mean just because the song's good, the show's good.
Well, it was a good show. But yeah, but it happens. But anyway, Broadway's grand. I feel grand doing this program. It's just 1 minute after noon in the Daverhood on Dave's Gone By. And yes, this happens. We're supposed to be on Saturday mornings, 9 until noon Eastern time. But we tend to go a little overtime because I enjoy talking and I enjoy doing all the things we do. And there's more stuff to do. We have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned and our friends of the Daverhood. And also, I've got to talk about bobsledding for 5 minutes or so. But before we get to that, Joyce, it's that kind of. But Vince was sitting there during he's like,
he was a little bit scared, I think, because let me tell you something. The 3 of you in costumes, you'll see the pictures later. It was a bit much.
Hey, at least there was no Shub involvement. That would have been like
the Shubs. I think it would have killed him. I think it would have. Yeah.
It would have been glorious, actually. Yeah.
The fact that you all produced costumes rather quickly blew my mind.
Well, that was thanks to you. I wasn't even going to go with the potato outfit, but you were right. The potato outfit made the segment.
It made it more classy, like.
And I think David.
It was classy.
And David Sheward came on with the Superman costume. God bless him. God bless him.
You know, these people are like theater people. They want costumes.
Well, what I want is a little bit of crime and a little bit of nostalgia mixed together. Because in the Greeley Tribune newspaper, which still exists in Weld County, Colorado, there are two two recurring weekly columns in this newspaper. There's the column all the way on the left, the column in the middle. No, the one is called Cop Log, where phone calls that come into the Greeley Police Department from people who are noticing weird activity in the town. They're reporting this, and then that is public information, and it goes in the paper. The funniest ones
Or it
do.
could be things that are seen in the town noted by weird people.
That has happened as well, definitely. So they lump them all into a thing called Cop
And
Log.
there's a lot of stereotyping and accusation and overgeneralization.
Haven't had a lot of hobo stuff though recently.
Like squirrels attacking or suspicious people sitting in their cars at a red light,
Yeah, that'll
that
do it.
happens a lot,
Yeah. So we mix those with what our friend Mike Peters does. He goes into the newspapers from 1920 and pulls out weird, goofy, funny, nostalgic things. And he has a column once a week called 100 Years Ago in Greeley, Colorado. When we mix them up into a segment that we love to call Greeley Crimes Old Times. Da 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 da, biddly fiddly oldly doo. Greeley Crimes Old Times it is, ladies and gentlemen. And Hum, do you have your noisemakers ready?
I always have it. I'm ready.
Let's get criminal. Police responded to the area of 9th Street and 8th Avenue. So it's very close to 8th and 8th here, where a man was running around pretending he was fighting someone. Police found him walking on the sidewalk talking to himself and determined that no crime had been committed. However, by 8th and 8th, it was a full brawl. So there you go.
8th and 8th is the vortex of all insanity, yes.
But do you think it's the same guy who just has been hitting himself in the head forever, who keeps walking by, what was the Egg and I?
No, I think that COVID insanity and like COVID fatigue has hit Greeley too.
It has. It has, as UNC moves into Code Orange.
Code orange,
Yeah.
not red, but orange.
Police
Orange
responded.
and red, we're not red.
Oh, it will be.
on.
Police responded to Lincoln Park.
Oh, that's a nice bar.
Yeah. Well, not at this particular moment, because a man was reported posturing in the middle of the park, quote, as though the bell was about to ring at the beginning of a UFC fight.
Oh, I like that. He was doing qigong. He was probably doing like the.
Well, fighting is just very fast qigong.
He was
If you're
doing
going
like,
like,
you know how Worf does it on Star Trek? He does that exercise.
yeah.
It's like Tai Chi.
But well, this is Tai Chi. This is killing. It's a slightly different thing. I just love the juxtaposition of this. So he's posturing in the middle of the park like he's about to start a fight.
Yeah.
A teacher with a class of children left the area after the man took off his shirt and began flexing.
Wow. Maybe it was Rick James.
But what I don't
I think
understand,
it was Rick James.
could have been Rick James. No, but what's more dangerous? A guy just taking off his shirt and flexing, or having a group of children grouped together in a pandemic?
I think having the children grouped in the park he was probably afraid of getting COVID from the children.
I'll bet he's using his arms to ward off the germs.
I think it was. I think he was like, no,
Oh, man, let's go old times. When life was simpler then.
I don't think so.
When a Greeley woman charged with an assault on her husband.
Oh, wait.
Things were so simple and sweet back in the old times. A Greeley woman charged with assault on her husband was released from jail today when it was discovered that she hit him with her shoe only after he began assaulting her. She was released and her husband was fined $5 in court costs on a charge of disturbance. Well, you know what they say, there's no business like shoe business. I'll say this, she had soul. All right, we're just lacing these things with comedy. Oh my God! Oh honey! Oh honey! Look!
David.
He's in his Halloween costume, ladies and gentlemen. Look! It's not Potato. It's Chicago student nurse murderer Richard Speck.
Oh God.
Here he is. But you know what? Richard, I'm going to need, do you know where Potato is? I cut him up. I sliced him.
David, I don't like that.
He's a murderer. He's stabbing people. He's killing them. But it's time for potato alert. Ah! Yay! Yay! Yes, he's very excited. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a potato alert. Potato alert, potato alert, which just means that we have a story about a potato. Oh, local farmers are having problems with the price of potatoes. The prices have been very unsettled, ranging from $1.15 to $1.25 per 100 pounds. I have to tell you how much I'm paying for these guys now. Don't even want to think about it. But oh, potato. Do you think you're worth $1.25? I am worth millions, zillions, even tens. All right, yeah, they don't. Math is not there. Yeah, go back to being Richard Speck. There you go. All right, let's do another. They do. Hey, let's do another old-time thing. You know, the World Series just ended. In real life here, I think the Dodgers won. Well, the Cleveland Indians, 100 years ago, won the World Series over the Brooklyn Dodgers 3-1. In the series, a record was set when 3 games were won by Cleveland pitcher, and the nickname, Stanley the Big Pole Kovalevsky.
I hope it's because is he Polish or tall? I mean,
No, he's Kovalevsky. He's a Polak.
that's a problem.
Back in the day, that's one thing you could do in 1920s. You could call a baseball player the Big Pole. You don't get like stolen base king Murray Horowitz is not the Flying Jew. You just can't do that anymore. The Big Pole Kovalevsky. And you've been big polled, you know how painful that can be. All right, let's do another crime. Police responded.
Oh, whoops. Sorry.
No. Not to 8th and 8th, but to 8th and 7th, where a man was walking around the area, taking off his shirt, pointing an imaginary gun at people, and making noises. Is anything illegal there?
No.
Is this a threat?
Maybe it's the same guy in the park. He just moved around.
Well, first he was flexing his muscular chest. Now he's flexing his fingers.
God
There we
bless
go.
him.
Well, no, God obviously did not bless this guy. I don't know.
He was not blessed. Yeah.
Not blessed at all. But we are blessed in our Greeley Crimes Old Times segment to sometimes do stories that have nothing to do with Greeley. We'll do 1 or 2 stories elsewhere, somewhere else in the world where weird stuff is happening. Now, and this makes me especially sad considering all the what we were just talking about being no Broadway and no concerts and no ballets. Well, this is how the pandemic. I mean, yeah, you can't go to Broadway and see Phantom of the Opera or Hamilton or anything or Wicked. And you can't go.
It's gonna be me, you know.
What? Nothing. And you can't go to the Boston Philharmonic and the Boston Symphony Orchestra. And you can kind of go to museums now, but oh wow. Ballet meets burlesque in cinematic form.
David, that's wrong. Just no.
It's been done, but they're doing it in Boston, of all places. A reinvented retelling of Tchaikovsky's world-renowned Nutcracker. Now, and this is the thing that gets me, now in its 13th season, the Slutcracker.
Oh God, that's a problem.
The Slutcracker moves to an online streaming platform just in time for the upcoming holiday season. So get the kids. The ballet is being retold in, quote, fabulous feminist form. Sure, because the name Slutcracker and girls taking off their clothes in burlesque are the first thing that come to my mind when I think of feminism. While the story has been altered to chronicle Clara's sexual empowerment, I'm reading this, the original structure of the ballet has been well preserved and remains true to its artistic integrity. What is astonishing me is that this has been running for 12 previous years. The Slut Cracker. Is it somebody just doing this in their garage? Where was this running? How was I not notified? How is the audience not given a jar of Vaseline and a box of tissues? I don't know. But if you go online, you can watch, I guess, The Slut Cracker coming to a holiday computer near you. Wow. Wow. And then we're going to go, I would say, away from Greeley for another story that came out this week, perfect in time for Halloween. In fact, our three elsewheres are Halloween related now. Dateline Sweden. Well, you love Sweden. You enjoyed being there. If you go into the bathroom of a Burger King in Sweden and you say, "Canceled clown," 3 times in front of a mirror,
Oh, yes.
the lights will dim and a vision of Ronald McDonald will appear. They did this. This is not a joke. This is not they actually had the technology to do this. It's a nightmarish stunt, part of the fast food chain's Halloween campaign in both Sweden and Denmark, made possible by voice recognition software. Says Burger King, quote, "A few years ago, a particular clown got abruptly canceled from his long-standing job at a certain hamburger chain. But this Halloween, he's back.
It's creepy, David. I'm sorry.
If you do dare to
That's
summon
too
him,
creepy.
it might be worth your while." Yeah, if you're Michael Jackson. Who's going to summon the Ronald McDonald clown? But can you imagine just going into a bathroom, a
I would
public
not summon a
toilet?
clown anywhere.
I know. And Burger King's really been on it. Previous promos included back in December of 2018.
No, but Burger King, the clown is McDonald's.
Clown is, oh, I'm sorry, Burger King has the king, of course. But here's what they would do. Burger King customers could get a Whopper for just 1 penny
Yeah.
if they ordered it and stood within 600 feet of a McDonald's. So people would see them delivering like a burger.
That's crazy.
And this past July, Burger King in Finland offered customers free delivery if they ordered their food to a McDonald's.
Whoa.
And they actually put advertisements for this outside the McDonald's restaurant. This is getting ugly, folks. At the same time, it was kind of cool that last month Burger King Finland unveiled posters featuring Ronald McDonald and the Burger King kissing as part of Helsinki Pride. Oh, not something I really want to see.
I don't think, but don't the restaurants not want this? Like, don't they fight it?
I don't know. I'm sure there are lawsuits and class act flying back and forth.
Wouldn't you think?
I just remember the Hamburglar being fisted, and just nothing ever I was, because they didn't use enough ketchup. I hope it was ketchup. I don't even know what that means.
Disgusting.
Yeah, it is. It is. Here on Dave's Gone By, we got one more Halloween story as part of Greeley Crimes Old Times. A drunken Florida man
Ooh.
squashed his girlfriend with what?
His lawnmower.
No, that's a great one.
His hammer.
Yeah, and by the way, squashed, they use the verb squashed. It's not really, don't think of it as in terms of like dropping a house on her. It's more like
His car.
he bashed her with something. What do you think he bashed her
A
with?
trash can.
No, oh God, these are great.
A pizza.
I'm not gonna get on your wrong side. Pizza's close, but pizza's a good one.
Sub sandwich.
No, think Halloween.
Oh, a broomstick.
Oh God, that would hurt. No, and actually, that's how the Hamburglar was sodomized the second time. They found another hole. No, what's
I don't know. Tell me.
he bashed her with
Yeah.
a pumpkin.
Oh, there you go. Is that like, what is that, like Cinderella?
He flung its pulpy innards at her after she asked him to leave their home. Nathan Garisto, age 26, was arrested on a domestic battery charge for, and I love when newspaper writers get a little bit of leeway, when they get a little bit of feed on their leash. He flung its pulpy innards at her, and then he was arrested on battery charge for the ghoulish gourd attack. When cops arrived at the home, the woman was, quote, covered in pumpkin seeds and pulp, said
It's
police.
probably a good moisturizer.
It probably is. Oh gosh, I couldn't think of a joke. Oh well. Oh well. Garista was, quote, heavily intoxicated while engaged in a verbal argument with his girlfriend. He claimed he only threw the pumpkin at the sliding doors and not at her. He did plead not guilty to a misdemeanor and consented to wear an alcohol monitor as part of his bond.
You should wear a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know. I just hate when I go into Starbucks and it says pumpkin this and pumpkin that. They just have pumpkin a latte. That was terrible. That was. I said some other things were terrible. They were not so terrible. That was actually terrible. I'm sorry for that. Anyway, we got. Let's see. Let's do one or two more criminality or old-timey things here on Greeley Crimes Old Times. Let's see. Police responded to 27th Avenue, where a woman was reported withdrawing money and then wiping down a car with the money. When the caller approached the woman, she said, quote, "This is the Lord's money." So I guess the Lord, God is a car wash?
Yes.
I always wonder about it, because the buff thing, that seems very godlike to me. That seems how I would want, if I got to heaven, wouldn't it be cool if heaven was a car wash? Like you stand outside, you're filthy with like 80 years of look on you.
Metaphysical.
Not even metaphysical. You go in, you get spritzed, and it's nice and clean and very refreshing. Not too cold, not too hot. Nice, refreshing. You're naked because it's heaven, right? And you walk in, and then you get buffed. You get the buffers on both sides, and they shine you up before you get to meet God. And then you go through, and then you're still dripping wet, so they pat you down with chamois cloths. And I never used to believe in chamois cloths, even during Christmas. But I think that would be excellent. That would be nice. I don't know.
It's gotta be you know.
That's right. Or nothing. Here we go. This little private joke here. Oh, we're going to start to do these, by the way. This is an aeroplane alert. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Because if you go into the newspapers back in 1920, which is what Mike Peters does for his column in the Trib, but they didn't call them airlines, airplanes, plane. It was an aeroplane. What a wonderful word. A-E-R-O-P-L-A-N, aeroplane. So we have an aeroplane alert. 6 little girls of Helen Dedrick's class were excited beyond their dreams Saturday when they were taken to Eton to see an aeroplane. For the girls, it was the first plane they have ever seen up close. Could you say that with me?
Aeroplane.
Aeroplane. Aeroplane.
Aeroplane.
It makes me feel more high tone just saying it that way, doesn't it?
You're very high. You're classy.
Yeah. And by the way, do you know what they call it when the rabbi goes flying?
No.
Aerosol. I spray my jokes everywhere. Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, and this is absolutely, we're going to go out on this one. Ladies and gentlemen, to end our today, our Greeley Crimes Old Times segment, oh, we do love them. Back in 1920, the Swastika Luncheon Club of Greeley. Again, this was before the Nazis. This is when it was just a symbol. The Swastika Luncheon Club of Greeley celebrated Halloween with a turkey dinner. Fall leaves, pumpkins, and other Halloween decorations highlighted the dinner, and go figure, the ovens worked great. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Greeley Crimes in Old Times for this Saturday, Halloween, 2020.
Mr. Horace Greeley was no fool. I'm sure that you'll agree with me that Greeley was no fool.
What he is getting at is that Mr. Greeley was no fool.
Yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi-yi-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi.
Thank you, Groucho. Yes, you're watching the Days Gone By Facebook, your podcast, your programming of the stream here on this Saturday, the last Saturday in October, last day in October. Finally, some beautiful weather. I was thinking about lighting the show like really creepy and ghoulishly for the holiday, but it's just so nice to see sunshine outside after like a week and a half.
Are you doing it on Sal's page or your page? I don't see it on your page.
Oh dear.
I wonder if you're doing it on Sal.
I don't know. I thought I was doing it on my page. I may have messed that up, but well, if I'm on Rabbi Sol's page, I'm hoping people found it. I'm hoping people, we certainly got a lot of people tuning in.
That's the watch party.
Oh, that's the watch party. I got it. Okay. Maybe I screwed that up this morning. Anyway, so here we go.
You know, it's been a long time.
What has been? Yeah, well, I just have a couple more things to do. I've got our Dave's Big Dictionary segment, Friends of the Daverhood, and then our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. But we do have...
hours, 19 minutes, 46 seconds.
I know.
For 4 hours.
Yeah, we'll get close to the 1 o'clock hour, but we're not going to go over 1. We do almost every week, pretty much, usually. So we're going to get to this segment, which earlier in the broadcast, Joyce put her finger down in a book, and the book is this dictionary, not of the English language, by the way, but of the American language, which we know is different. So at random, completely at random, and her finger landed on the word bobsled. Lucky me. So my job is to talk extemporaneously about that word as part of Dave's Big Dictionary. Extra, tell all about it. It's Dave's Big Dictionary. So in case you forgot, bobsled is a long sled made of 2 short sleds joined together. Either of the short sleds, or another definition is either of the short sleds, or a long toboggan with steering apparatus and brakes, often ridden by a 4-man team in races. So there we go, bobsled. Another thing that I have never done in my life, this one has been tempting. You know, skiing, maybe briefly tempted here and there, but it looks so dangerous. I knew I'd break something if I went skiing. And I haven't been skydiving or any sort of that, you know, jumping out of a plane or jumping into a plane. I'm kind of like, am I right? I like my life. I don't need the thrill of the risk, and I'm not going to go chasing that. But there's something fun if you're at least staying on the ground and hugging tight to something. How badly injured can you get? And I used to.
The Jamaican bobsledding.
Yeah, until you start watching the Olympics, and then they've got these people in the luge flume where they're like this. They're looking packed together like a pencil. They got the thing and they got the this, and then they go at 150 miles an hour, and people have literally spun out, come off the luge track, and hit their heads and died. And so I'm seeing this, and I'm thinking, bobsled, maybe not so much. Maybe not for me. But I have to admit, the last time I was tempted is when Joyce and I were living out in Colorado, and we have a friend who lived about 3 miles up near this place that had not yet been developed. So there were these houses, really nice block, and then nothing really in front of them except land, except now they're building nursing homes and assisted livings. But before then, they just basically had these hilly places where what you would do in the winter is you would take a little sled and get on it if there was snow and just go right down. Just go right down. And I was thinking, you know, if I were 10 years old, I would be on that. If I was 20 years old, I think I would be on that. I was 50-something years old. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to get up. Not so much because I was afraid that I would be hurt, even then. But at my age, it's kind of like, you know, if I do this, I'm going to get like cold and wet. I'm going to be on this thing right low to the ground. I'm going to be slushing through snow. And it's going to be in my face, and it's going to be in my pants. And then here I am. I'm going to stand up. Oh, great. I slid downhill for 4 seconds. And now I got to get in the car with horribly wet, snow-packed pants and drive home without getting pneumonia. This is the way a Jewish person thinks. I was like, maybe not so much for me, you know. But I don't know, still the temptation. My wife has gone snowshoeing, which is kind of different. You wear the right boots, you stay pretty well warm and cozy and tidy. And I would like to do that at some point. I think that would be kind of nice to just clomp around in the snow on big old snow boots and what are sled boots, I guess you call them. But actual bobsledding, if you put a gun to my head and you say you have to try one of these sports, that's one of those I would do. As I said, basically because at least you're not skiing, you're jumping off a thing, you're landing, you're hitting trees at 80 miles an hour. I'm not saying it's like, here's a very slightly sloping hill. Go, come down. I'm not talking about Olympics, the Jamaican thing coming down, but go, come down. And the other thing that bobsledding just brings to mind, and it's kind of interesting, that a couple of days ago was flipping through channels on the TV, and it was Turner Classic Movies or whatever that channel has turned into, and they were showing Citizen Kane. And you cannot, I didn't even have the sound on, but you cannot look away from Citizen Kane. Yeah. Every single shot, every single moment, there's the thought of Orson Welles as director going on. There's the lighting of it. There's the use of deep space. Yeah, it's just so beautifully mapped out that even if you don't hear the dialogue, even if you don't remember this part of the film and what was happening in it, you're just caught by the beauty of the filmmaking of Citizen Kane. And of course I bring that up. If you've never seen Citizen Kane, how do I relate this to a bobsled? Well, there's a part where there's children on a bobsled. Let's mention that.
You're on a sled, not a bobsled.
It's just a single sled? It's not a whole bobsled?
Maybe they are. Let's say they are. Let's say they are.
Because I think, and I'm not going to say the name of the sled. That kind of gives the whole thing away. But whether it is a bobsled or a regular sled or not, that made me think of how extraordinary Citizen Kane was, and how it's one of those movies you could just, you figure you'll watch 10 minutes of it and you just want to get sucked in and watch the whole thing because it's so all of a fantastic piece. And if you've ever had a fantastic piece, you know how hot that can be. But yeah, I'm not sure what else to say about bobsledding. I would be kind of, only other thing that comes to mind is, where did the bob come from? It's a sled.
It's Robert sledding.
Is it Robert? It's Robert sledding. That's his full name. But think about it. Was it named after a guy named Bob? Or if you go on it kind of fast, is your head going, because why isn't it just called a duo sled or a double sled or a bi-sled or something like that, or a trans sled if you swing that way? What happened with Bob? Where did that come from? A bobsled. I guess I could probably look that one up, but I'm not going to now because I think I've made it through about 5 minutes talking about bobsleds here in our Dave's Big Dictionary segment here on the. What? Why are they booing?
That's gold.
Oh, gold. That's gold. Oh, I always thought it was boo.
Gold.
Oh,
that's how they say it.
I did it. I achieved my goal on Dave's Big Dictionary. Hurrah. Hurrah. Yippee. Well, it's 12:30 in the afternoon here in the Daverhood. Dave Lefkowitz talking to you. That's me. My darling, wonderful wife, Joyce, is with me as we are getting through the last bits of this episode of Dave's Gone By on this Halloween. We're calling this episode Convinced in honor of our guest earlier in the program, Vince Giordano, the band leader. Remember to go to his website, vincegiordano.com, to find out about the documentary they did about him and to buy it. You can also get the new Loudon Wainwright album, I'd Rather Lead a Band, for which Vince does all the accompaniments and his band does. And everything, all things Vince Giordano at vincegiordano.com. I also want to thank so much our friends of the Daverhood, David Sheward and Leslie Hoban Blake.
Right?
He was great. He was super today. He was a Superman today, quite literally. David Sheward, thedaviddesk.com is his blog, and he also writes for Theater Life. And there's one more that I can't remember on
It's
the.
like Theater Circle? No, that's Leslie.
That's not Leslie, is Critic Circle. Leslie Hoban Blake, she has a podcast that she does with our other friend of the Daverhood, Charlie Gross. And you can see those on YouTube. It's called Critics Circle do look for her and look for all of them on the interwebs and elsewhere. They are friends of the Daverhood. And what that means is they've appeared on the show. They've been our special guests. We like to keep track of these people. We like to let you know what they've been up to in a segment we call Friends of the Daverhood. So again, if people appeared on the show years ago, what are they doing now? For example, I want to let you know, oh, Bill Levengood. He just messaged me this morning, so I don't have that as part of my notes. But the playwright Bill Levengood, and a very good one he is, has a play that you can stream on the interwebs now through the election. It's a very political, satirical thing that I hope to get to watch, and you can too. I'm sorry, I don't remember the name of the play, but his name is Levengood, Levengood. Bill Levengood. Look for him. Look for the play, all the stuff that he's doing, and check it out. I want to let you know that this is going to be your last week to catch the new Richard Nelson play, Incidental Moments of the Day, featuring our friend of the neighborhood, J.O. Sanders. That is a benefit for the Stage Directors and Choreographers Foundation. Find out more at the applefamilyplays.com. Jorma Kaukonen, he's still doing his stuff at the Fur Peace Ranch, where he's doing weekly Saturday night concerts. Jorma Kaukonen, of course, was in Jefferson Airplane and continues to be in the different iterations of Hot Tuna. Go to the YouTube channel Fur Peace Ranch. What else do I want to let you know? That Andre DeShields is part of Sing Out for Freedom. This is a benefit and, of course, a thing to get everybody to vote. SingOutForFreedom.com. Seth Rudetsky, who I went to school with and is a friend of the neighborhood, he is doing a vote-a-thon with a whole bunch of stars, including our friend Adam Pascal, starsinthehouse.com to find out more. Eric Comstock and Barbara Fasano, speaking of the Great American Songbook and songs from other eras, they are doing duets on their YouTube page, Eric Comstock and Barbara Fasano. StageBuddy.com, a website about New York nightlife, StageBuddy.com, founded by our friend Evan Seplow. Dr. Demento still doing Dr. Demento shows at drdemento.com. Soundsofbroadway.com, founded by Stuart Brown, if you want to hear 24 hours of theater music. And then, of course, Bob Cudmore doing podcasts of upstate New York history, bobcudmore.com. And want to remind you that even though there's no theater going on per se, there's still theater being created for the interwebs, kind of the stuff I was talking about before in Performing Arts Insider's virtual theater section. Well, a couple of people are still reviewing that on totaltheater.com. Ann Siegel, our critic friend in Milwaukee, and Mary Shen Barnage out in Chicago. And by the way, check out Will Manis's reviews. They're all at totaltheater.com, and they're all friends of the Daverhood. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the friends of the Daverhood indeed, here on this October 31st, Halloween, finishing up Dave's Gone By. Well, I want to let you know that before we go, I'm going to torture you just a little bit more, because how can we end an episode of Dave's Gone By without our Colorado Limerick of the Damned? This is where I do a short poem about a place in Colorado, the state where Joyce and I were living for almost a decade, a short, kind of horrible, obscene, disgusting, filthy, humorous poem. And today, for our limerick, we go to Chama.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick.
Yes, thank you, Christine Lavin. Colorado it is for our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, where, yes, there is a place in Colorado called Chama, Colorado, Chama. It is a small ranching community in far south central Colorado. There's like 60 people living there, has a post office. Most of the houses are made of adobe, which is kind of interesting. And there's what they have to offer is really rocks and a kind of sagebrush called chamiso, where perhaps this is where they got Chama, the name of the town, from. But anyway, we salute the 60 or so folks who live in Chama and all the many people who pass through there on their way to better places. Here is our Colorado limerick of the damned. A dirty old pervert from Chama. I know. Sometimes
It starts off so strong.
it starts off so well, doesn't it? A dirty old pervert from Chama had sex once a week with a llama. I once asked this loner how he kept his boner. He said, I just think of my mama. Send your comments and complaints to davesgoneby@aol.com. davesgoneby@aol.com. Yes, I do have an old-fashioned AOL account. I will check your messages. If I have time, I'll respond to them. You can also message me right here on Facebook at this Facebook page all week long. You can either post under the show, which I've been warned by Joyce is probably broadcasting on the Rabbi's channel rather than my channel. Oops. But anyway, feel free to post on my page, Dave's Gone By, all week long. Or if you want to get in touch with me directly, just message me on Facebook or write to davesgoneby@aol.com. Want to remind you that davesgoneby.com is our website. It is our archive, every show we've ever done, just about every guest we've ever interviewed. The archives are right there for free. You can either stream them or download them to your device as their MP3 files, davesgoneby.com. You definitely want to check out that website. You also want to check us out on archive.org and for the audio, castbox.fm and on YouTube as well. We try and scatter our seed wherever we can, like the guy smashing pumpkins on his girlfriend. Want to remind you also that Rabbi Sol's website, shalomdammit.com, is a place to read all his old rabbinical reflections. You will also find his, and hear them too. They have the links to the recordings. Speaking of recordings, he did 10 episodes of a very funny TV show for cable TV about 10, 15 years ago. You can go see them there at shalomdammit.com, DAMMIT, shalomdammit.com. You can also watch his one-man show, Shalom Dammit, An Evening with Rabbi Sol Solomon, right there on the website, shalomdammit.com. And the Rabbi's Twitter feed, by the way, is at Rabbi Sol Solomon. My Twitter feed is Radio Dave 2, Radio Dave and the number 2. So please just like us, follow us, tell everybody. That's what it's all about. Want to give a big thank you to our friend one more time, Vince Giordano. Go to vincegiordano.com to buy the documentary about him, to buy the Loudon Wainwright album.
Merchandise is on his website.
What's that?
All the merchandise is on his website.
All the and he has a bunch of albums with him and the Nighthawks. That's available too. Support him. This is a very tough time for musicians. I mean, I'm sure he's fine. He gets movie work, has for many years. But still, these are tough times, and it's important for a musician to be heard. I mean, the man is putting on CDs to play along with so that he can practice and can feel like he's in a band, because he doesn't get that feeling, right? So at least let him know that you care about his music. Let him know that 1920s and 30s and 40s jazz is great, right? So let him know. Go to vincegiordano.com, leave him a message, say something nice, send him an email, and if you want to buy something, that would be even better. Let's see, and thank you to David Sheward and to Leslie Hoban Blake, our co-victorious guests in the Daverhood, playing the Today Yesterday quiz. But most of all, thank you very much to my darling, adorable, and wonderful wife, Joyce, who is just there, moment after moment, noting down the people watching, giving us the sound effects, straightening my tie, pulling off the this and putting on the that, and fixing the
But
feed.
if you're
And
the host, you have to have a costume. If everyone else had a costume, you have to have one.
I'm dressed as a middle-aged angry Jew.
No, but
Yes.
that's your normal costume.
Well, yeah, but it's all a costume. You
should
read
have worn your
Goffman.
shirt that said I'm a potato.
Oh, you in
This
a
is my
potato
human
costume. But it's how I wanted to go dark and
Next
suave
week
for the
wear it,
band
wear
leader.
it next week.
Yeah, maybe then, yeah, we'll carry on Halloween next week, next Saturday, which will be November 7th, 2020. And we'll be doing the 771st episode of Dave's Gone By. I don't know if we'll have a guest or who the guest will be. We will have our players in our Today Yesterday quiz, so that'll be fun no matter what, and all the other insane stuff that we do. It just remains for me to say, please, if you haven't already, vote early, vote often, vote your conscience. I can't tell you, okay, make the decision that I came to. And after really swinging back and forth, Biden-Harris.
Or my
Sure.
thing is like if you don't vote, then you can't complain.
Yeah, you can. Believe. Hey, vote for Princess Jamala or whatever her name is. She's on the ballot. Vote for the other insane. Vote Kanye. Don't vote Kanye, but vote Kanye West. He's on there. And look at the ballot. And don't forget to vote for all the other things too, because you might go look at Donald Trump, might look at Joseph Biden, might look at Kamala Harris, might look at Mike Pence, and hate all of them. And be sick of all of them and sick of their parties, right? But don't forget that the parties are down ballot. There's other things. And there's an abortion question in the amendments down there.
No, that's only Colorado.
I'm sorry, that's the Colorado ballot. But the you probably have ballots too and things that you're voting on involving your taxes, mill levy fees, whatever the hell those things are. Yeah, I mean, look through it. So if you're figuring, I don't want to be blamed or credited with whoever becomes president in a couple of days. It's like but there's other stuff on there. Make the effort, please, and write in potato. You want to be a write-in candidate on the ballot? No, that's horrible. Potato wants you to write in Chicago nurse murderer Richard Speck. First of all, he's dead.
No.
Second of all, he killed people.
Just write potato.
Nobody's perfect. Well, that's funny Billy Wilder steal right there. Ladies and gentlemen, that finishes up this episode, our 770th, the convinced episode of Dave's Gone By. Don't forget the archive of this show. So if people normally tune in to the Dave's Gone By page on Facebook and missed it because I posted it to the rabbi's page accidentally, that's fine. It'll be on davesgoneby.com by tomorrow, if all things go well. So see it there. Anyway, I'm Dave Lefkowitz. I want to thank you. Go vote. Enjoy the at least temporarily nice weather and gone by.
Dave's gone by.
Spooky. Scary. Oh, look, the light went. Oh, just turning the visual down. Look. Oh. Suddenly so dark. So creepy. Yeah, it's just me. See you next week.